meeting procedures will adhere to board-adopted procedures to the extent practical. An audio recording of this meeting is being made and will be available to the public at a later date. We apologize in advance for any unforeseeable difficulties and ask for your patience as we navigate unprecedented conditions. The order of business for this meeting is set out in the agenda. One item that you may notice on the agenda is the consent agenda. This item includes items that are considered routine and/or are of a recurring nature. All the items listed under the consent agenda will be acted upon in one motion. The meeting will then be officially called to order. Please bow your heads as Trustee Freeman leads us in the invocation and pledges of allegiance.
Stand.
Okay, let's stand for the pledge. For the invocation.
Almighty and merciful God, we ask your guidance and blessings upon this board, students, parents, patrons, teachers, and administrators as we are assembled here this evening in the common pursuit of this great nation's wealth, our children. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right, the first thing on our agenda tonight is a school finance integrity rating system of Texas report, the first report. Mr. Barajas, I believe.
Morning, and then have the other one says.
Yes,
other
ma'am.
Meetings, it has December, November, and then October.
Dr. Wood, did you want to preface it with any comments?
Are you seeing it? Okay, good.
Did you want to preface this with any comments?
So,
Okay, just making sure. Thank you, Dr. Harrell. The reason for the hearing is to cover the results of Northside's Independent School District's rating for the 2019 School First. Determine whether or not a district is
yeah, it's still bad.
using its resources in a financially prudent method.
I'll just,
I am pleased to report that for the 2019-20 School First rating, which is actually the results from the 2018-19 financial data, the district received a rating of A or superior with a score of 96 out of 100. There's a comparison between the 1920 score and the 1819. They're identical. The indicator number 8 is the only indicator where the district did not receive the full 10 points. So rather than go through every single indicator, I just want to make a couple of comments about indicator number 8. That determines, according to TEA, a district's long-term solvency. We don't feel that this indicator accurately measures Northside's ability to maintain its long-term solvency. TEA has these indicators that are broad and have to apply to every single district across the state. So they don't take into account the unique circumstances of districts that, for instance, Northside, that has had to issue debt because of the number of buildings that it's had to build. So in no way do we feel that this indicator should be looked at in a way that it really is a demerit to Northside because, again, it doesn't accurately measure our long-term solvency. We have issued debt, and we have done it in a strategic and completely manageable way, and will continue to do so. That is it. The actual report itself, which is to be distributed to the public, will be available online tomorrow. And in front of Mr. Scott, there are actually some other reports in case the public wants to pick up the financial management report.
Thank you, Mr. Barajas. Are there any questions from the board? All right, thank you very much. We will now move to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Harrell. Appreciate that. Just to update the board, about 40% of Northside students have returned to buildings, and we continue to invite those who are struggling as virtual learners back to the buildings. We are, where we can, restarting clubs and organizations. While 2021 is anything but normal, we're trying to inject a sense of normalcy for students where we can. I want to thank the fine arts folks and the Northside Media team, trustees and staff for participating in the Tassi Convention. I know obviously that was very different this year. And thanks to all, especially those 100 very talented students and their fine arts instructors who helped us showcase our district at the convention. So thanks to all of you who played a role in that.
And Dr. Woods, I'm going to interrupt you for just a minute because as powerful and wonderful as your words are, I think pictures are worth 1,000 words, and our board really felt strongly that we would love to see our children for a change. So at this time, if we could go ahead and have our kids, that would be great.
Today, I want to celebrate the best of who we are and why we lead, and that, of course, is our students.
I see it in your eyes. You believe that lie, that you need to hide your face. A brave step outside, so you lock the door, but don't you stay back.
Northside ISD had an amazing showing at the recent Texas Association of School Administrators and Texas Association of School Boards annual conference. While the event was a virtual one, it did not diminish the
Okay,
excitement
yeah,
or the
it's
energy.
coming.
Okay.
They're worth waiting for. So we'll just breathe a little bit. Everyone do some mindfulness activities, stretch, think of your silver linings.
For me, the story of Northside ISD can't be told without
Gotta love technology.
Today, I want to celebrate the best of who we are and why we lead, and that, of course, is our students.
I see it in your eyes. You believe that lie, that you need to hide your face. Afraid to step outside, so you lock the door, but don't you stay that way.
Northside ISD had an amazing showing at the recent Texas Association of School Administrators and Texas Association of School Boards annual conference. While the event was a virtual one, it did not diminish the excitement or the energy.
For me, the story of Northside ISD can't be told without the fine arts. Almost 88,000 of our students participate in fine arts programs at all levels and across all disciplines. We've been recognized multiple times as one of the best communities for music education, and our students have earned accolades at the state, national, and international level. I'm in awe of the team at district events. Today, you'll see about 100 singers, dancers, and musicians from our elementary, middle, and high schools.
From now on, what's waited till tomorrow starts tonight. It starts tonight. Let this promise in me start like an anthem in my heart. From now on, from now on, from now on. We will come back home. We will come back home again.
Congratulations, and thanks to all of the NISD student performers who participated, to the fine arts teachers and directors for their hard work, and to all those behind the scenes. From the scripting and choreography to the recording and editing, the final product showcased the hard work of many dedicated professionals.
We are going back safely, whether in person or virtually. We are doing it together, and we are going to be better.
And of course, a very special acknowledgement for our very own Superintendent, Dr. Brian Woods, the 2020-2021 TASA President.
Front. So members of the board know that the state has elected to extend the average daily attendance hold harmless through the first semester. And while that is good news, it leaves a lot of the school year left to go. And so there is much work to be done on that front. Our administration, child nutrition groups are working hard to make sure we have students signed up for free and reduced lunch. Because the federal government has allowed students to eat free for the rest of the school year, there's not much incentive for families. The challenge of that for us is that we generate other kinds of funding via that mechanism. It's not just about feeding families. And so we're working hard to get that squared away. We'll show the most recent round of COVID expenditures later on tonight. And I'll just preview a little bit of Budget Amendment 1. Because there's still so much uncertainty on both the revenue side and the expenditure side, we chose not to project that or guess at that for Budget Amendment 1. So what you'll see in BA1 later tonight is really just carry forwards from the prior year and a little bit of COVID-related expenditures. As I've said to the board many times since the spring, we will probably be updating the budget more often than we have in a typical year as things become a little bit more certain. I want to take a minute to thank Cassandra Miranda and the Foundation Board. The president of that board, Jerry Lammers, is actually here tonight. They have come up with what I think is a really creative way to do a virtual NEF gala here in the week after next. And so, Jerry, thanks for all of your work, and certainly Cassandra and the staff's work. Really looking forward to that event. We have drafted legislative priorities, and they will come to our policy committee next week. As you might imagine, they are dominated by COVID-related and funding-related concerns, but we'll have a discussion about that next week. I was able to, and I know at least some of the members of the board were able to participate in an event with Diane Ravitch lately. And for those who aren't familiar with Dr. Ravitch, she is a passionate advocate for locally governed local public schools. And listening to her talk about the challenges we face in our country, that public schools face in our country, and how strong her advocacy is around that was really inspirational. Really enjoyed that event. I'll close by reiterating what you've probably heard 1,000 times, and that is we have an election coming up. Please vote. If you have not already done so, please make sure that you vote. Over 70 Northside schools are polling locations in next week's election, so our schools will be very busy on that day. Dr. Harrell, that concludes Superintendent's report. Thanks again for the TASA TASB review.
Thank you very much, and thanks to our Fine Arts Department as well and all the staff that helped out. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll move on to board members' reports. All right, Ms. Reed.
I have a couple of things to share with you tonight. Hopefully, you remember that I represent all school districts on the ACOG board, which is mostly made up of county judges and commissioners, city mayors and council members, or state senators and representatives from the 13 counties that in ACOG. There is an annual meeting in December where awards are presented for worthy projects, and Northside has been a winner a number of times, and we might be again. We have submitted our joint effort with the food bank to provide food for our students and families during the pandemic. I believe Monica is the one that wrote it, but I think the idea of who to submit was Dr. Woods. It is such a worthwhile program, and I'm pretty sure that it will be recognized as a winner again. This will be my last meeting on their board. I have represented the school districts since 2008, and it's not always been easy since their meetings are on the Wednesday morning following our regular board meeting on Tuesday. It's hard to be prepared for both of those meetings adequately. Currently, there are only 4 districts that are members of ACOG throughout the 13 county region, which is really sad. Those 4 districts will receive an application to submit a recommendation for one of their members to apply. I think someone of one of those 4 districts is already interested in that process. One more topic. I am currently serving my 31st year on the Northside board. It has been a long run, but a very fulfilling one for me. I've seen this district more than double in size and improve and diversify in remarkable and productive fashion. This past year, I missed all the graduation ceremonies because seeing our students graduate is really what it's all about. But at this time, it is time for some younger members to be on our board, so I will not be running again in May. I wanted the board, the staff, and the community to be aware of this. I'm not leaving yet. I'll be here until May, and only hope that things will have returned to more normal times when a new member assumes this seat. Thank you.
I'm going to do a point of personal pride and just ask that we start the first round of applause for your service and your dedication and your heart that you've given to Northside all these years. And so I'm going to go ahead and start with the applause, Katie. So thank you so much.
It should really be applause for Northside. If Northside weren't doing such a great job, I wouldn't have been continuing to do this.
I know.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. And Katie will give remarks on behalf of the board at the NEF Gala in a couple weeks. So thank you for that, Katie.
I was on the board when NEF was started, and
Yes.
so that's why Carol asked me to do the readings for that. So,
Yeah. So thank you. Any other board members? It's hard to follow that.
Oh,
Okay, Ms. Freeman?
yeah, I don't know how I can follow that, quite honestly, except, you know, Katie, I am sure that anytime you decide to make that type of decision, there's a lot that goes into that. And I can't imagine, this is obviously not a goodbye here.
yeah.
We've got several months for that, and several months to learn all we can from all your corporate knowledge that you have stored in all those years. But I just don't know what it would be like. I can't imagine another legislative session. Good thing we've got this one coming up, but after that, I just don't know what it would be like to have you not here at the dais. So the standing ovation was certainly well deserved. And
Thank you.
and it was said earlier when we knew that she was going to make this announcement tonight, why so early was asked, and somebody said, well, then it doesn't leave us much time to try to talk her out of it, right? She's already made that decision. But thank you, Katie, for for all your service.
Thank you.
And just when Dr. Woods talked about our kids at Tasby, they were absolutely phenomenal. I mean, we're all sitting there watching them on a laptop or device or whatever, and I was getting several text messages from board members and people that we knew that this board knows was watching, and all of the accolades and the congratulations and well done. The kids were absolutely phenomenal. And I don't know that I have anything else to say, Dr. Harrell. Thank you.
Thank you for those words. Ms. Chumbley?
Yeah. Katie, you have been a wonderful role model for young women. I'm thinking back to 1995 when I first got on the board with you, long time. You have done some amazing things and brought some amazing ideas to Northside, and you're going to be missed.
Thank you.
So now I get to get weepy right now so that when we have this great celebration in May, I won't be weepy. But, you know, I know it's important that you be a role model for young women. And that's one thing that I think really stands out that you have accomplished as a trustee in Northside. And I think that you have touched the lives of lots and lots of students. And what a wonderful legacy that is.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on. I wanted to share, I've been able to make some of the football games, and I wanted to congratulate Stan and our staff, our athletic staff, and all the volunteers. Well, I guess there's not volunteers, but a lot of our Northside retirees that work at the games. They've done a really good job. I was surprised when I went this last time. So what you do, I don't know if any of y'all had a chance to go, but it's really interesting what we're trying to do to make sure that people are safe, is you come up and there's this little barcode. I guess it's not a barcode, but y'all know what I'm talking about. It looks like a barcode. And you snap it with your camera, and then a template opens up and you put in your information and answer, you know, that sheet. And then you walk up and they check that, and then you come in. Anyway, so, and actually it was interesting because I had run into Stan and asked him, you know, because I'm really not good about bureaucracy and having to do all those kinds of things. So I asked Stan if anybody had complained about it. And he said actually that we have had parents thank us for doing that, for taking that extra step to make sure that we try as hard as possible to keep our kids and our staff safe. Anyway, I just thought that was neat, a neat comment that came back. But it has just been so much fun to see kids again. Oh my gosh. And to see them just having fun again and being together. And it's been exciting. It's been great to see the bands, and I think they're doing, Fine Arts is doing a really good job of trying to make sure that all kids get to participate with rotating students in different games. And I just, you know, if y'all have a chance, you need to go to one. Just be prepared, you have to go through that line. And Dr. Woods, don't say anything to Barry or your staff, because it was the board that asked them to put that together, because not only were we celebrating our wonderful and just fantastic students, but we were celebrating you as well. And so thank you for your leadership on everything you've had to do with this school district. And then you were leading TASA at the same time, and you just did a phenomenal job. So we just wanted to make sure that you knew that you were very valued and appreciated. And I wanted to just have a shout out to Karen and Bobby. Bobby, thank you so much for having the coalition do the State Board of Education candidate forums and the ACCD candidate forums. And Karen, I think you may end up having a moderator. We should put you up for any of those debates. I think you did much better than some that we have seen on a national level. But I just wanted to thank you both, because I thought that was really interesting. And those are races that you don't always hear about. yet they are very important, particularly with our kids on ACCD. And so it was just really a great opportunity for us to learn more. So I just wanted to thank you both for stepping up and taking care of that. So, and that was it.
Thank you, Ms. Chumley. Mr. Black?
Yeah, I'm still thrown off by the Katie announcement because I had no idea until about 15 or so minutes ago. Let me come back to that in just a couple of quick other announcements. Wanted to follow up on Melissa. I want to thank Karen also. It's her idea and was really a great one. We had every single ACCD candidate and every single SBOE candidate that came before the Bexar County School Boards Coalition. And I thought it was really enlightening and promising for future partnership opportunities to continue also. So I thought that was really good. Let's go to the board now, relate to something Dr. Wood say. One of the areas, we work on is a Science Bowl, and the Department of Energy decided we're going to have a virtual Science Bowl. I helped with the Nationals last year, and they're going to do virtually this year, also with the regional. So we'll have the public, private, charter, and other schools. We had our first meeting about 2 weeks ago, doing Science Bowl again virtually. So looking forward. I'm glad we're able to continue that after last year's challenges that we had. The other on the book side of the house, the Bexar County School Board Coalition book, we're working with the publisher right now, so we're finalizing that almost on a daily basis. So we'll have the description of the 19 ISDs and some really good write-ups that give information, the challenges faced during COVID-19, some more data type information, and in a Go Public section also. So that should be, we're shooting for December to have that one published. So glad all the trustees here, as well as all the, we got 134 trustees in Bexar County area, all helping out with that one. And the last one, I thought showing the video was interesting because we had Dr. Woods as the TASA president right now this last year. But when you look back a little bit, we're talking about Katie. For those that don't know, Katie was the Texas Association of School Board president. And I think the first one in the San Antonio area, if I'm correct.
Second, I think.
Okay, we'll pretend like it's first. It may be second. To actually have that distinction and, the accomplishments and the recognition that she achieved at Northside were extremely well deserved. So it's just interesting to have that sort of transition at this particular time. And like the others have said, we'll definitely have the opportunity to, I don't want to say celebrate, because to me it's all messed up to see you going, because you've done such great things, but we'll come back to that. So thank you, Karen.
I'll still be around.
Thank you, Mr. Blunt. Mr. Lopez, did you have any comments?
Really, my comments are just going to be about, I did have a chance to attend the football games, and Melissa, you were right. There were a lot of protocols that were put in place by Stan's organization, and everything was meant to keep the students and the parents and the families safe. And so I applaud Stan on that, and his procedures in trying to make sure that these events that we put on for our athletic events are safe for everybody. So, Stan did a great job on that. And not only did I do the varsity football games, I was able to see some of the JV games too as well. I think I went to John Jay's and then Taft High School to see their games, and all the protocols were being followed. So, and parents and students were glad to be out there cheering, and seeing the players being able to play was good. Like you said, it was some type of normalcy trying to get back into it. So it was good to see that. And regarding the TASB, there's nothing that I can say really that you all haven't said. It's all been, our fine arts department has done a great job. James Machoka, our director, and his team have done a great job, and Barry as well, your department, putting these videos together. So, it's just a great job that you guys have done in making the district look good and representing us very well. So, and Brian, your leadership on that organization has kept education, public education, and the students at the forefront here in Texas, and especially reminding our legislators that, there's a lot of work to be done, and they need to support us on that. So, and you've been a big advocate of that, and you did a great job this past year. So, thank you. And Katie, You know, there's no words. That's what I can say. Your 31 years of dedication to our students, it's just phenomenal. So, and I thank you for that, being that example for us as a new trustee. You know, using you and seeing you, having you in your leadership, it really means a lot.
Thank you.
And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Mr. Medina.
Thank you. So I'll just, you know, so much has been said, but I just want to go back regarding the State Board of Education, the Alamo Community College Districts, and the candidate forum. Again, a special thank you to Mr. Blau, Ms. Freeman, all those that participated. It was not only very informational, but the timing was, the quality of questions were meaningful, and it was meaningful not only for those that participated, but also for the candidates, giving them a place to speak, but all, you know, to give their points of view, and also for them to have an outlet to express themselves. And I'll go straight to our campuses. You know, as the school year has begun and we just wrapped up the first 9 weeks, all our campus administrators, they have gone tremendous miles just to give all our students and teachers a wonderful beginning of the school year. Our counselors are doing a phenomenal job reaching all our students that are, you know, not only students, but also staff that are needing that support. And so that's really, really important that we recognize those counselors and administrators, but again, importantly, the teachers, you know, that they're carrying, you know, every morning, every afternoon, they're there to greet our kids, and they're there to send them home and be there whenever they need additional help. I'll go to, I kind of missed the announcement of Miss Reed, but, you know, my heart, you know, is feeling. She has always been kind of somewhat on the board, a cornerstone, a guiding principle for me as a new board trustee, as a school board member, but her leadership not only locally throughout the state has always been a shining light, and we've always been fortunate to have her here with us in the Northside ISD community. And so I like to continue to have conversations with Ms. Reed and always seek her advice for being working on the governance of this board. Lastly is regarding our athletic program is, you know, from volleyball to middle school to now girls basketball tryouts have already started. I went to a football game this past weekend. It's been a while, and going into overtime, it was a, you know, a wonderful experience. Wonderful. I can't imagine the parents that have their kids out on the field cheering them on, as well as those that are in the band. It's great to see everyone out together in the community, but also in the stands, it's very safe. At campuses, it's very safe. And so I see it as a whole team effort. And so again, you know, everything's going really well, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Medina. I just had a few things. I wanted to recognize Project Acorn. Nancy Kreth and Amalia Sollers recently had a Project Acorn meeting in which they honored a new award for our teachers. A couple years back, Kent Page, those of you who've been in Northside for a while remember Kent Page. He was a Texas winner of the Presidential Teaching of Science Award, one of the highest honors a teacher can get. He went to the White House and represented Texas. He received a personal prize award of $10,000, which could be used in any way. He and his wife, Linda, graciously turned that money into seed money with the NEF donation and started Project Acorn grant application and process. So now teachers can win a Project Acorn award through this grant application process, and the awards were given that night. So I brought a thank you, instead of a thank you card, I brought a thank you book for all the trustees to sign, and we'll make sure the pages get that. But it was an incredible honor. They were very humbled by both receiving that award, but also giving the award. So Project Acorn, for those of you who don't know about it, is after school program, weekend program, gardening, butterflies, flora, fauna, everything for our kids. And our teachers coordinate that at our various elementary schools and middle schools now, which is really exciting. So wonderful to hear. And they have a little acorn like our Apple Annie and Apple Andy, I guess. There's now an acorn. So pretty cool award. Recently, there were, as recent as Friday, the American Board of Trial Advocates hosted an all-day free conference for teachers, and they were from everywhere from between here and Corpus Christi. A lot of Northside teachers were there. Our very own police chief, Charlie Carnes, was a presenter and got rave reviews. So, Chief, are you here? I'm looking. I saw. There you are. Thank you very much. You represented Northside with such expertise and class and knowledge and care that lots of compliments and kudos to you. So thank you for doing that. And then I was on a panel with the Texas Health Literacy Conference. I was asked to speak on teacher self-care and teacher self-compassion, which is my day work that I do coaching other schools. And one of our counselors, Amara Sanchez from Rhodes Elementary School, did a superb job representing Northside and really concentrated and focused on all the care that we're giving our kids. So it was a nice bookend approach to Texas Health Literacy. And then finally, there was a education forum that was last week, and it was Dr. Pedro Noguera, who's one of my all-time favorites, was a keynote speaker. But one of the panelists that joined him was our very own Lacey Greco, who is a GT teacher at Leon Springs Elementary, and she did Northside so proud in her dialogue, but her discussion and presentation about what teaching is like right now. And one of my favorite lines from her is like, you know, every day is the first day of school when you're teaching post-COVID. I mean, every day is the first day of school. And I had to really think about that. It is. We're still getting used to structures and strategies and routines and rituals, and we're getting those in place. But she said it was such a, like I look forward to another first day of school. So it was that excitement mixed with, and here's what the reality is. So they got to see the best of the best. So all's good in the world of Northside. All right, we will now move.
Dr. Harrell?
Yes, go ahead.
If I just
Ms.
take
Hembley.
a moment, I'm going to have to go, guys. I am really hurting. If someone with IT could help me unplug my computer, I'd appreciate it. And I just wanted to say, Debbie, I'm going to have to step out, but I wanted to thank you. I know you're being recognized, but you are just a phenomenal risk manager, and you are such an advocate for employees. I can never thank you enough for how many times you have helped not just my family, but other families in Northside. So I just wanted to tell you thank you. And guys, I'll see you later.
Thank you. Take care, Ms. Hembley.
Walking back and forth for all this.
I'll wait. Next, we have recognitions.
Yes, ma'am, Dr. Harrell and members of the board. I want to explain to those who are here and here with us virtually that typically during special recognitions, all of the board members would go and stand in front of the dais so that they could shake hands and congratulate each honoree. Obviously, tonight is not a typical situation, but we very much wanted to go back to recognitions in front of our board. We haven't been able to do that in several months and thought that this was an excellent time to do that. So at the conclusion of our recognitions tonight, we'll take some socially distanced pictures with each honoree, Dr. Harrell and myself. So after your picture, we'll ask you to please go over to the side table where Monica is. Monica, well, thank you. And you can pick up your certificate, and then we would love to have a picture with you. That being said, board members, it is my pleasure to introduce someone who was just reintroduced to you. And we'd also like to wish her a happy birthday. 39. That's the right number, right? Yes. Okay, got it. So, yes, I'm with you on that. Debbie Glass, as you know, is our Director of Risk Management, and she has been selected as the Texas Prima 2020 Risk Professional of the Year. This award, sponsored by the Texas chapter of Public Risk Management Association, PRIMA, is designed to recognize an individual who exemplifies excellence, innovation, and commitment to the risk and insurance management field. Debbie has 30 years in risk management. She served as health and safety specialist for Levi Strauss & Company for 14 years before coming to NISD in 2004 as our safety specialist and assistant director of risk management. She served as director for the last 4 years. She will be honored at the Prima State Conference in November. In addition, the Human Resources Risk Management Department received a 2020 Risk Management Achievement Award for their program called Learning Opportunities, which raises awareness to prevent future accidents or losses. Joining us virtually tonight is Debbie's family, her husband Mike Glass, daughter and son-in-law Tracy and Chad Emerson, and their granddaughter Carly Sue. Please help me congratulate Debbie Glass. So Debbie, if you'll go see Monica, get your, oh, Barry, sorry, get your, oh, sorry. I'm not following the directions. Okay, as long as we know whose fault it is. All right. Our next recognition is no stranger to the board either, or she certainly shouldn't be. She's helped us with multiple district special events when we showcase student talent at Convocation, Educators of the Year, TASA TASB, and many others. Tiffany Burrell, science teacher at Stevens High School, was named the 2021 Excel Award winner for Northside ISD. She recently joined the administrative team at Stevens High School as an administrative intern. Tiffany is in her 10th year in NISD and started in 2010 as a 6th grade social studies teacher at Zachary Middle School. In 2011, she joined the staff at Stevens High School as the dance teacher, and the program has continued to flourish under her leadership. In 2016, she was named the Fine Arts Coordinator for the campus, and through this collaboration with her colleagues, created a variety of departments, campus, and district performances. In 2014, she created the Jazz Dance Company at Stevens and serves as its director. She is also the co-chair of the Northside ISD chapter of Texas Future Dance Educators. We're going to watch a video and learn a little bit more about Tiffany.
She's great with kids. She's great with her peers. She was our Fine Arts Department coordinator, so she was also in a leadership role.
Her passion put her on the stage at a very young age. Tiffany Burrell danced her way into adulthood, where she then found a new love. And combining both, she became a powerhouse at Stevens High School. That is why Burrell is our Excel winner for Northside ISD.
Save the Last Dance is probably one of my favorites, and that's probably because it came out when I was in high school.
And it's by no coincidence. Dancing has always been Tiffany Burrell's heart and soul. From the silver screen to real life.
I do love jazz. There's some days where I like to do more hip hop.
These girls are a testament to Burrell's deeply rooted love.
I wanted to be a teacher, and then I realized I could do what I love in dancing and teach. Putting those two things together was a dream job, definitely.
Burrell started when she was just 7 and danced her way through high school and college. But today, the lessons she teaches at Stevens High School reach far beyond the stage.
That she just doesn't teach the art of dance to the kids. She also prepares them for life.
Like this.
Her positivity and commitment.
And it seems like every time we do a large-scale district production, we like to showcase our students. Tiffany's there.
Is just one of the many reasons we honored her with our KINS 5 Credit Human Excel Award.
Congratulations. I love it. Magic. That's TV magic right there. That's what I call magic.
I wish I could do it in person. We have a giant cardboard check with your name on it, but Sam will hold up.
Ta-da!
This year, Burrell had to make some adjustments to her dance classes, moving to the virtual world.
We make it happen. We get on Zoom and we work together. And it's kind of like those old workout videos. That's what I feel like I'm doing sometimes. But, you know, they're up and moving in their living rooms with us, and it's really neat.
Burrell's also the director of Jazz Dance Company, an elite group for fine arts dance departments where students hold campus concerts and recitals.
We have traveled in the past. We've gone to New York and LA to take dance classes and see shows. And then we've also taken them to different colleges and universities around Texas to look at their dance programs.
And no matter where you find her, her contagious attitude never fails to light up the room.
It's never really about learning how to do a leap or, you know, a plie or a pirouette. Like, those are great things that, of course, I want them to learn. But it's those life skills, I think, that mean a lot more. That's something that they can take with them for the rest of their lives.
And they'll probably always remember her for that, those life lessons. Burrell was recently promoted to help oversee the Fine Arts Department. You want to say a huge congratulations to her. And if you haven't seen your favorite teacher on here yet, just might be coming. Join us next Thursday morning as we honor another teacher from a different school district with our Excel Award.
So, yeah, very nice. Thank you. So as you know, the Excel Award is given annually to outstanding teachers in San Antonio by KINS 5 TV and Credit Human. Each year, Northside School District picks one out of over 7,000 teachers to be recognized. As you can tell, the presentation took on a different look this year, but you can see that Tiffany was awarded her silver apple and her $1,000 check. So continuing with our theme about Stevens High School, Principal Pertel is here, and I know he is proud. We continue to honor folks who are associated with Stevens, and we're going to honor someone who is a bit of a trendsetter as the first Northside student to receive this new award from KINS. Issa Link is a senior at Stevens High School, was recognized as the KINS 5 All-Star Student for 2021. Issa is a high-spirited and enthusiastic member of the Sky Dancers dance team. You can sense a theme here. As a junior, she became widely recognized face and voice of the Falcon production teams as one of the lead anchors for the school's weekly video announcements. When the district shifted to distance learning, Issa continued to work closely via email and Zoom with her AV production teacher, Patrick Tejeda, and her peers to continue providing weekly news for her fellow Falcons. The purpose of this new award by KINS 5 is to highlight one exceptional student from each school district in the station's viewing area. We have over 100,000 students in Northside. Let's watch this video about this amazing young woman and who is a role model to her fellow students.
Tonight we are celebrating an amazing high school senior. Northside ISD's Issa Link is this week's KINS 5 All-Star student.
Eyewitness News reporter Vanessa Coy introduces us to the Stevens High School standout who's already soaring to new heights.
I have a keychain on my thing and I have minions and I just spend just a second with Issa Link Bear Minion and it makes noise. And you can't help very happy about it, but smile.
You know, you can always see that she's very energetic, very enthusiastic about everything that she puts her mind to.
The Stevens High School Falcon is already soaring to new heights by setting her feet in motion.
She's definitely an exemplar, you know, of the kind of kid that we're wanting to produce as a campus and as a district.
Because for Issa, the sky is the limit. Doing everything at once really helps me for the future. Issa's academic advisor says she excels in her college-level classes. She's also a leader on the Stevens Sky Dancers team.
You get to see her smile just standing out from the crowd.
And Issa is the widely recognized face of the Falcon production team.
It's definitely helped me a lot with being more social because before I used to be very shy.
Issa says dancing down the path of success wasn't always easy.
Well, I have ADHD, so it's very hard for me to focus in class most of the time. And so I'll try and make things fun so I could be more interested in it.
And whether it's working double shifts at Whataburger on the weekends or making an appearance on the Spurs Jumbotron, Issa is ready to take on the world.
Students look at their peers and how they carry themselves, and Issa is a perfect example of that. And that's why I think you see other students being drawn to Issa as a leader.
Because it's that grit, that sparkle, that can-do attitude.
It is your student leadership, service to your community, and commitment to academic excellence that sets you apart from your peers.
And it's why Issa Link is our KENS 5 UPS Store All-Star Student of the Week.
Very, very fitting that she would be recognized for her hard work, her positive energy, and all the good stuff she's done.
Vanessa Croy, KENS 5 Eyewitness News.
Issa told us she wants to attend UT Austin or UTSA and pursue a career in film production.
All right. So you can clearly see why the campus nominated Issa for this award. Joining Issa tonight are her mom, Danielle Link. Mom, will you please stand up and let us thank you? Thank you. As well as Principal Ryan Patel. Mr. Patel, thank you, sir. All right, if we can give a big round of applause for all three of these honorees, we're going to ask you to get your certificate and come up front and take some pictures with us. So just a suggestion. There's been some conversation about one of the policy updates. And so Dr. Harrell and Mrs. Freeman and I had talked about the possibility of moving that item up in the agenda. We asked Attorney Decker to be here with us tonight in case the board had questions that they may want to pose to him. So with the board's permission, we'll go way down to the agenda into administration and ask Naomi Miller to come forward and do the presentation on Update 115. This is for first reading, so no action tonight, but it is for discussion. And then if there are questions, certainly Mr. Decker's here and can provide those answers for us to the best of his ability.
And Ms. Miller, Dr. Wizvame actually has some legals that she'll review as well prior to the locals as part of Update 115, which comes to us as a result of the 86th legislative session. Ms. Miller.
Good evening, Dr. Harrell,
Dr. Woods and members of the board, thank you. We are going to go over There we go. So this is TASB's policy update number 115. As Mr. Galindo indicated, we'll go over some changes that are as a result of the 86th session from last year. So we'll review some of the legal policies, followed by the first reading of local policies, which there are 12 total. And those include 3 from Title IX changes. So I'll go through these. If you have any questions along the way, feel free to ask me to pause. We'll start with BBA legal. This was as a result of Senate Bill 2283 by Senator Campbell. It revises the law to add that you cannot run for school board if you are convicted of a felony. BBD legal updates. Board member training as a result of House Bill 403 from last session. It adds several things, including training requirement for identifying and reporting abuse. BDF legal is a result of House Bill 18, which was the student mental health bill from last session by Representative Price. This adds school counselors to the list of those that the board can appoint to the SHAC. And it also requires us to publish certain information on our website regarding mental health resources and policies. CQA legal. Again, this is regarding online postings, regarding our Title IX coordinator. And TASB has a running list of things we have to keep on our website, so I keep up with that pretty often, but this is one of those. DHC legal is around new requirements for reporting certain conduct by non-certified employees. It adds a definition for employees to those the superintendent has to notify TEA about certain conduct. It also adds a definition for solicitation of sexual conduct. DMA legal, also a result of House Bill 18, revises the optional and required training to include a focus on various aspects of student mental health. EI legal, there's actually a change to legal and local that'll come up later in the presentation, but it updates provisions regarding partial award of credit. It actually gives districts more local control on awarding credit to students. Use of use of drones. It basically says that we can use a drone without getting permission from the FAA. So that's kind of fun. Okay, so now I'll transition to item B on the agenda, the first reading of local policies. Again, these policies actually 17th. So there are 3 policies regarding Title IX, but I've put those at the end. So we'll start. Policies are not adopted by the board, and I think y'all are familiar with this. We had brought this up before, that legal policies don't have to be adopted because they're already legally binding. Deletion, TASB, does not need to be a board adopted policy, and this is covered in admin regs. So here's EI local. Again, we went over this in EI legal. This gives districts more control to award credits to students. Administrative code already permits districts to award course credit proportionally to a student who successfully completes only half a course. FD local addresses transition assistance for students that are highly mobile. So this includes homeless students or students that are in substitute care. The legislature really paid attention to homeless students this last session. So this provides assistance for some of those kids. FEB local revises rules about when attendance should be taken. Attendance should be taken in the 2nd or 5th instructional hour. It now allows the superintendent to designate that time. FFG local revises policies around child abuse and neglect and some of the reporting requirements for that. Again, child abuse and neglect, which was 20 years old, so it probably needed to be updated. FMF local is also an older policy that's recommended for deletion. There is no requirement to have a board policy, and Stan Lang has said that this is more than covered in UIL, in the UIL rulebook and admin procedures. Okay, F&G local only changes 90 calendar days from 90 business days regarding complaints and grievances. And then GF local, again, changes 90 business days to 90 calendar days regarding public complaints. So we're going back to DIA local. We'll transition to these 3 policies that have to do with Title IX regulations. We'll start with DIA. This one's regarding employee welfare. It revises the definition of prohibited conduct, outlines provisions for district's response to investigation of sexual harassment, directs the superintendent to develop a formal process for Title IX, and some other provisions. FB local was minor changes regarding the Title IX coordinators and records retention. And FFH local is regarding student welfare. Same thing, it adds provisions for reporting and handling of sexual harassment and other crimes. And that's update 115.
So happy to take questions or comments. Again, what little help I would be, Naomi and Ray would be a lot more help, and then Mr. Decker if there are legal questions.
Okay, any questions? Mr. Blood?
We don't have any citizens signed up to speak to this item.
Oh, okay.
Okay, great question. Ms. Freeman?
Yes, Dr. Harrell, thanks. So as a board, we were sent a letter from a local organization concerned about us adopting Update 115, some of the local policies. There's some things they stated in here, and I just wanted to confirm with Mr. Decker that I don't see, we went over this in policy, and I looked at all the information that we had, the policies in more detail than Naomi, what you just discussed. And there's a concern by this organization that by adopting these, this update 115 or the Title IX policies of 115, that we would need to change our policy regarding dress code, same-sex bathrooms, housing, showers. I don't know what they meant by housing, but showers, sports teams, all of that. I don't see anything in here that describes that. Can you verify that, Mr.
Yes,
Decker?
I can verify it has nothing to do with that. The letter was in part in response to a letter that was previously sent out by the ACLU, which was discussing an issue with student dress, but this update that was issued by TASB is not related to that. It is, as was articulated, specifically related to the Title IX changes that were passed and went into effect on August 14th this year, and to put you in compliance with what that requires.
Thanks. And there's something in here about protective status, or that's what they claim, but there's nothing in that regarding protected status. What did?
If we want to go into detail about that, that would be something I would probably advise we talked about in closed session.
Okay.
I can say publicly what I will say is I've reviewed it. I don't think it has gone beyond what had been previously in policy. And again, what is required now under the Title IX changes. But if there is a desire to have a discussion in regards to that particular issue, they did address that. That is part of what the ACLU was addressing, and I'm certainly happy to advise the board as far as where I think those lines are.
Okay. And this is first reading on local.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? All righty. Thank you, Ms. Miller.
Thank you, Dr.
Very
Hall.
much. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, thank you. This is, as Ms. Freeman indicated, this is first reading. If there are questions that come up between now and the November meeting, please let us know, and we will get those addressed either between now and then or at that November meeting. All right. Dr. Harrell, if you're okay, we'll go back to the order.
Yeah. We are now at reports, item 7. Safety audit report, recommended action, discussion only.
I will turn that to Mr. Galindo.
Thank you, Dr. Woods. Thank you, Dr. Harrell. And I'll wait for the PowerPoint to begin. And as she does, actually, I'll go ahead and start by recognizing Shane Allard, who's here. He's our safety and security officer under the direction of our chief of police, Chief Carnes, who was recognized earlier. Can't thank them enough for the work they've done. Shane's been with us for 6 years now, I believe, a little over 6 years. And I say that because here of late, probably the last 2 years, you've I've heard of other districts, both small and large, going to hire this type of position and have added them to their staff. And so I know I've received a couple of calls, and happy to say that we're ahead of the curve, so to speak, and that we've had Shane Allard in this position, like I said, for a number of years doing the work that he does. And certainly when it comes to this, our safety audit is instrumental in the whole process of it all, again, under the umbrella of PD and the supervision of Chief Carnes. So I don't see the slide yet, but however, I can go ahead and give you a little bit of the beginning, which obviously this is going to be the third iteration of this on my watch, and since the law has been implemented. This is required by statute, section 37-108, excuse me. And there we go. And so the key here is, I think both the first and third bullet, that we have some sort of a plan in place, and certainly a safety committee, which in this district I can say we've done for many, many years, even going back to my administrative years as a vice principal and principal. And so happy to say that we've really expanded through the years on what we've had from the very beginning as an administrator for myself. Next slide. The second part of the law states that once the audit is done, that the results are reported to you, the Board of Trustees, as well as sent to the School Safety Center, which is part of, or I should say, who TA contracts out to in terms of all their safety and security type measures. Next slide. So why do the audit? Well, certainly not just to be compliant and have it, a box to check, but also, as you can see there, I think the keys here are the third and maybe the fourth bullet in terms of always looking at how well prepared we are, not only our campuses, but all our non-instructional buildings as well, and always looking to improve. I think we do a good job over the years. And so through it all, not only is it, again, a compliance requirement, but also I think it ensures that all of our leaders, not just campus principals, but directors, are ensuring the highest level of safety for our students and our staff. Next slide. So the development of the audit itself was developed and written by the School Safety Center. When they first did at the onset, they hired a number, as you would expect, first responders, and brought them together as far as what they felt was necessary to have a good plan in place. And so the intent is to improve, but even though we send the results to the Texas Safety Center, we're not obligated, and they don't dictate or recommend anything that we need to do. And therefore we're not required, if they were to send any type of recommendations to us, we're just informing them. Next slide. So the scope of the audit, because of the position that we have with Shane as our safety and security officer, it's a pretty thorough audit. Not only the internal facility, external communications on the campus, especially including their websites, are looked at. Everything that goes into the plan, the behaviors, the planning, and the communication they have related to it, all of it is reviewed, and it's an actual on-site audit that Mr. Allard does throughout the year. So with 120 campuses and non-instructional buildings, on any given day during the week, he's out, and we are, of course, on a 3-year cycle. And so many of the buildings he visits, even more than that, but at a minimum, he's out there at least and has a written report that we have formally every 3 years. Next slide. For secondary schools, you'll see a highlighted number of 308 line items in 16 different categories. And you can see how the scoring is based pretty straightforward, where on every item, if the implementation level is completely 100%, you get the full credit of 4 points, and work your way down depending on the level of implementation. Schools, but our non-instructional buildings as well. Next slide. To give you an example of this, one category that we look at, especially for schools, as you might imagine, access control and visitor procedures. And so one of the items under that category is all campus visitors must present a photo ID and obtain a pass. And so you can see the breakdown there, and to explain how you're awarded the points, if you do this at a campus, as you should, for every visitor, every day, on every event, you're going to get the full 4 points, as you can see there. And it is 100% very true. And this is done through observations, communication, signage, the visit, of course, everything that that Shane does in terms of his audit, as far as the actual point that are awarded. And you can see if a school, for example, does that most of the time, but not always, maybe just when a student's going to be checked out. So they'll get awarded 3, and you can go down 2, 1 as far as the, again, level of implementation. And so that's one example of one category and item that is listed as part of the audit. And so, as you might be interested, so here is the summary of the elementary schools for 2020. And you can see at the bottom that the total doesn't come out to 308 as just mentioned, and I'll come back to that in just a second. But you can see overall that we did go up, and you'll see there in just a bit, the summary of all of our levels of how much we went up. But proud to say that although we've brought you before some good results, that even this go around, we continue to improve. The reason for the lesser number in terms of the total number of items for the elementary is, as you might imagine, a high school of 3,000 students is going to be a lot more complex in that they have weight rooms, locker rooms, football fields, they have specialized shops, fine arts. All of that is actually studied and looked at as part of the audit. And so because of that category itself lends itself and has a lot more points for our middle and high schools. But even so, as you can see, the overall was a very good percentage that we ended up for our elementary schools. We're proud to report. Next slide. Next slide is our middle school, and you can see there item, I believe is number 10, that actually highlights the specialized shops and all the questions and items that come underneath there. You can see our middle schools all actually came in almost a perfect 100%. So outstanding work that they're doing in terms of the audit results and the protocols that they put in place. The next slide is our high school. And you can see there as well, also did really well and almost a perfect score. And then if you go to the next one, you can see here, obviously as trustees, which I'm sure wanted to see is where we were at last time and where we're at now. So you can see how we did go up in every category. And I told Mr. Allard, with these types of numbers, it'll be interesting what it looks like in another 3 years, because you can't go much higher there. But even so, we're certainly going to try. Overall, as a district, you can see, and for our campuses, which usually is what we're asked about the most, you can see that last time we were at 93 and went up to a 95. And you can see by level the breakdown from 3 years ago in 2017 to now 2020. And so again, outstanding work that we think with a lot of protocols and a lot of departments working together. Next slide. So some of the strengths that we feel that we can relay to you in terms of what we found out in terms of safety and security. We figured, as you can see, good progress from the 2017 audit. We continue this, I get calls from other large districts. We continue to support elementary campuses with uniformed officers. Now, they don't have an officer every day, but through Mr. Allard and Chief Carnes, we have officers assigned to every elementary school where it's not so much a policing as one might imagine traditionally, but more so they get to know the staff, the administrators, the children at elementaries. And so every student knows or should know their officer, and they come by at least once, if not 2 or 3 times a week in some cases, depending on the need. But really proud of how that's worked out and appreciate the chief's work in getting those officers to our elementary schools as well, and involving them in a non-threatening manner where they really, I think, feel comfortable and understand their role as law enforcement. You can also see there that we've added a number of security cameras. You may remember we came to this, to several committees and to you as the Board of Trustees when we completed our elementary schools all have cameras now. In fact, so many cameras, somewhere in the neighborhood of 8,000 cameras in Northside, already upgraded about 3,000 of them. We continue to install badge readers as needed, and other cameras as principals think they're necessary. The badge readers, of course, are the badge and the access that certain buildings you'll have access to with your card as a proxy. And so we continuously look at those and as needed install those badge readers. And it's not just about schools. You can see the last bullet there. We've 14 non-instructional facilities have had cameras added, as well as the readers I just mentioned, to include NLC, transportation, and a number of other, again, non-instructional buildings that we want to maintain secure as well. Next slide. On the human side of things, again, proud to say that for years now, we've had in Northside a district level safety committee. That committee started years ago with primarily central office folks. And you can see now every year we've expanded principals, parents. We now have even students as part of that committee. And they were instrumental in the second item that you see there, the active shooter video that we put together last year, actually a year and a half ago. instrumental in that they, not only through the Fine Arts Department, were part of what actually the actors that put together and were part of the video, but also in terms of the training that we did and rolled out. And so the last bullet you see there is we have now, this is all done pre-COVID, of course, active shooter and lockdown training was completed, not only with all our students at secondary, but as well with instructional facilities and their staffs as well. So everyone was trained with the active shooter that was so talked about just, you know, a year and a half ago, and again pre-COVID, when safety was quite a priority, and still continues to in a different form. And I'll come back to that in terms of these times that we're in. Next item. So the other, so again, some more strengths. Security lobbies pretty much will be completed, I understand, in probably the next 6 months. 57 already have them, 16 under construction, and 7 are going to be near completion. That'll be security lobby where you'll be asked for your credentials before you enter. And so again, an effort with a lot of different departments, Leroy especially, and everything they've done there. And then the final bullet there, as far as all campuses, we feel through the years, with the emphasis we put on safety, have really shown a genuine interest in trying to make sure their buildings are safe. If you're not a principal or director, you have a protocol in place that involves ISMS, our integrated security management system, our PD, our facilities and administration that work together. And on any given day, the team is out looking at cameras and alarm systems and badge readers as needed, trying to make our buildings safer. And so, next slide. Is everything great in Northside America? Well, no, we still will always continue to look and see what we can do to improve. 3 areas are up there for you to see. One is we will continue to always look at the protocols, especially these days. And someone mentioned the screening process and the protocols we have at athletic events. Before we got to athletic events, of course, we did this at our schools as well. The screener that students have to take, staff have to take before they get into the building every day. We've included, because of these times, temperature checks still with many of our younger children. And so we think that will always be a topic of conversation as far as what our entry process is in terms of our schools and our not even our non-instructional buildings as well. Another initiative and a challenge that we have is pre-COVID. You may have heard of the Stop the Bleed initiative that came as a result of one of the Senate bills. All of the equipment, if you will, and everything that we need has been delivered to campuses. And we were about to get that going right before the pandemic. And so slowly we will begin to train our staff and to some level students on the Stop the Bleed initiative that you may have heard of. So that's something that's still ahead of us that we need to complete. And then, of course, always as buildings and construction occur throughout our district, another item that we think we'll always have is the study of traffic congestion that we involve sometimes even different law enforcement agencies to kind of help us out with, to see what we can do, especially in and around our bigger schools. And so finally, last slide, where do we go from here? We have now for a number of years used the Raptor system at all our elementary schools. Well, we piloted at a high school the last 18 months. And so possibly looking to maybe expand that to some other secondary type schools. The Raptor system, of course, the system that where you present your credentials, a driver's license or a military ID, and they run it through a system to make sure there isn't anything that we wouldn't, prevent you from coming into the building. So we have had that system in place for a number of years. Second bullet there, the system itself is actually going to be updated at our elementary schools to the latest version. And so that's something that we have in the works. Third item there, very, very happy to say that the handheld radios, which I refer to as the walkie-talkies that we've had at our schools, dating back to when Dr. Woods and I were principals, are going to be upgraded. And they no longer will be a walkie-talkie looking device, but more like a phone device. And at a cost of over $1 million, will not cost us a cent, because due to some good grant writing folks in different departments, we got the money, over $1 million, through a grant. And so we hope to have those new communication devices in the hands of our administrators in the spring. So very, very happy to report that. And obviously that'll include and help our safety protocols. And then finally, I know Leroy and I discuss at least once or twice a month the calls we get from administrators about the building in terms of fencing and other badge readers, cameras, and so forth, that his department, along with law enforcement, have been very, very helpful in making sure that our schools are safe. And so with that, Dr. Harrell, that is what we will submit to the Texas Safety Center. The scores that you saw earlier as our audit for the 2020 school year, to not only be in compliance, but also for you as the Board of Trustees to know what we're doing out there in terms of safety and security. I'll be glad to answer any questions, or the chief, or Mr. Allard as well, if you have any.
Okay, Mr. Blunt.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mr. Galindo. Thank you.
Yeah, just one question on the alternative schools. You know, the 90-90, and looking at the challenges, are there things that we can do, or is there some limitations on alternative schools?
There's some limitations from what I understand, Mr. Blunt, because of the facilities. We also switched one of the buildings of one of the alternative schools, which is now one of our elementary one. But we have some discussions there, and really the points along with the facilities were more on the protocol and the human element side as far as what we could do and hope to improve that. But yeah, that's the summary that we got from alternatives. As you saw, maintained the same at 90.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blunt. Any other questions? All right, we certainly thank the police department. We thank everyone related to, oh, sorry, Mr. Lopez, got to raise. There you go.
No, that's okay. Ray, on the, going back to the 2020 high school audit summary, and I'm looking at all the different, I don't know what page that is, but I was looking at, I lost it. Okay, at number 1, grounds and building exterior. What exactly are we looking at when it comes to the grounds, building, and exterior?
For that type of specificity, Mr. Lopez, I'll defer to Mr. Allard, who actually was there and did the audit. Mr. Allard, could you tell us a little bit about, looks like 18 items under grounds and building specific to high school?
Yeah.
What you looked at?
Yes, sir.
Thank
Good
you.
evening,
Welcome.
Dr. Harrell, Dr. Woods, trustees. Yeah, so when I go in, I do an initial walkthrough, saying what do the grounds look like? Obviously, do we have sinkholes? Do we have potholes? I look at the fence, and I look pretty much everything around outside the school. So before I even start building, I'm already writing stuff down. It's like, okay, we got walkways that are shifting, or sidewalks that are shifting, or not ADA. So those are some of the questions that we look at in that portion.
Sure. And then as far as number 6, building interior.
So going through the interior, what's the interior look like? Yeah. Do they have the proper signage? Do they have the proper signs throughout the school? Safe, just going through and just looking at, is it clean? Does it look clean? Do I want to come here?
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. You know, Ray, I mean, the reason why I was asking that is because, you know, oftentimes we go as trustees, we go to the campuses and, you know, we're asked to visit. And one of the key things for us, or at least for me, is I look at when I go on campus is, you know, is the campus presentable? You know, is it cleaned up? Is the lawn maintained? And I'm not saying it has to be perfect, but I think those are real good things to have when we talk about our campuses and even our elementary campus, all our campuses, is that how it's maintained, because the public needs to see that we are really taking care of the campuses. So it's really good to see that, you know, we're really looking at those, and that's important for us. So thank you for looking at that and taking those into consideration as far as the maintenance of the building and stuff like that.
Yes, sir. And this being the third iteration of this cycle, so for me,
I'm sorry?
So this being the third audit that I've completed
Oh,
for
yes.
the district, that it's to the point right now is I'll look at a tree and I'll call Mr. Miller up in maintenance and say, hey, I got a tree that's hanging over fences, and he has his guys out there. It's that quick. And a lot of the things that I write down in my initial audit, I have to go back through because a lot of times they're fixed right on the spot.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that the principals and the admins definitely like is how quick they are to fix stuff.
Yeah, no, well, thank you. You're doing a great job. Thank you, Ray, on that. And I'm glad to see that our audits are coming out good. And yes, like you said, we can always improve. So that's great. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Allard. Thank you, Leroy, and your folks, and building maintenance, finance, facilities. I'm sure there's finance involved too, but thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it. They're always involved, right? All right. Now we'll move on to citizens to be heard. And I have just a brief announcement, rules for addressing the board. We believe citizens to be heard is important and meaningful, and we will listen to what you have to say. We value your opinions, although we are restrained by law from taking any action. Please address your remarks to the board. Please confine your remarks to a Northside policy or practice. Limit your remarks to 3 minutes. At 3 minutes, you will be asked to wrap up your remarks. Please do not make any personal attacks on individuals. Thank you very much. And the first citizen to be heard is
Melina Espiritu Azucar.
Good evening.
Yeah, we need a time.
Okay, hang on, I'm sorry. I forgot to, I don't have the script for that, but I will say that you will have 3 minutes. Excuse me, no, 3 minutes? 3 minutes. At 2 minutes, the yellow card will be raised. And then at 3 minutes, you will see the red card. You know it by heart now. Thank you very much.
All right. Good evening, Dr. Woods, Dr. Harrell, and members of the board. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak this evening. My name is Melina Espiritu Azucar. I am the lead organizer for Northside American Federation of Teachers. I'm also a 14-year educator with my last 6.5 at Northside as a Northside teacher. I also have children that attend school in our district. Northside AFT would like the opportunity to bring to your attention the real concerns that we're hearing from our members across the district. The COVID positive numbers that the district released today show that the last week there was 31 cases across the district. That brings our cumulative total from the 28th of September to 101 cases. The rise in cases is a real concern for our members who are in the schools daily and are worrying about the real possibility of contracting the virus and becoming very sick and ill and possibly too ill to work. We recently sent a survey out to our members and asked them if they felt comfortable speaking to their admin about the safety concerns. And 64% of them indicated that they either did not or that they were somewhat comfortable with communicating with their concerns to their admin. Many of our members feel fear of retaliatory behavior and fear that they'll be in trouble if they speak up and share the safety issues that they are seeing on their campuses. Teachers and support staff need to be able to have access to share their safety concerns so that we can all work together to keep our district and schools as safe as possible. And so we ask that our teachers and support staff have a way to freely share their concerns without fear of retaliation for speaking out. Our members also answered questions on their survey in regards to excessive workload. What's being asked of educators during this unprecedented time is simply not sustainable. Teachers are putting in endless hours to prepare for simultaneous face-to-face instruction and virtual instruction. They are pulled in many directions and feel very overworked and unsupported. 43% of our members that took this survey indicated that they spent well over 10 hours outside of their workday, prepping their lessons, dealing with Schoology, answering emails, supporting students, and much more. When the expectations that teachers are working 50+ hours a week is the new norm, how can we expect to retain highly qualified teachers? The expectations are simply too much. We implore the board to please take a look at the workload the teachers are bearing and find a solution to the tremendous amount being put on the backs of our educators. We want to continue to have the very best teachers and staff that this district is known for, but if we don't take care of them, we will lose the very best teachers we have. Our organization wants to work with each of you and of course with Dr. Woods. We continue to seek a meeting with Dr. Woods so that we can bring specific examples and strategies to his attention. And we hope that he's willing to meet with us. Thank you for all the time and consideration. And remember that we are stronger together. And we look forward to being able to work together with our superintendent and board members. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Stephanie Alba.
Good evening, Dr. Woods and distinguished members of the board. Thank you in advance for listening to what I have to say. My name is Stephanie Alba. I'm a pre-K dual language teacher, and while the concerns I voiced today are shared by many teachers, I appeal to you primarily from the perspective of an early childhood educator. I can only imagine the challenges you face as leaders during this difficult time, yet I'm certain that your top priority is what is best for our students. That is why I implore you to acknowledge that exhausted, overwhelmed, and demoralized teachers are not in students' best interest. Therefore, it's vital that you reconsider the way you're asking us to deliver instruction and the unrealistic expectations that are being placed on us. Dr. Woods, you stated in your last live address that NISD worked for many months to find a system-wide solution for teaching both virtually and in person simultaneously, and simply couldn't find one that you thought would work. I'm here to tell you that the current method doesn't work either. We're asked to differentiate for our students, yet the district has a one-size-fits-all approach to teaching during this pandemic. Teaching early childhood is vastly different from teaching upper grades, including upper elementary. My students are between the ages of 4 and 5. Teaching them in person is demanding. Teaching them virtually is brutal. Teaching both at the same time is not only incomprehensible, but also infeasible. Have you considered the focused attention and help our students require, or the extra time it takes to plan and execute lessons that aren't hands-on, especially when none of the resources we have are adapted for virtual learning, or how time-consuming it is to disinfect work areas and supplies used in an early childhood classroom to maintain a safe environment? You also stated that you've tried to mitigate our workload. However, no allowances are being made. Everything about the way we did our jobs before has changed, except the expectations placed on us. Not only did we have to learn new programs for virtual instruction without any real guidance on how to adapt our teaching methods to this setting, as pre-K teachers, we're being required to learn an entirely new assessment platform. We're being expected to evaluate and assess children who we do not see for more than 15 minutes at a time, if at all, and whose parents are doing everything for them without training or guidance on how that is to be done. Please don't misunderstand me. I'm delighted to be back in the classroom with students, despite the fact that I'm putting myself at risk daily because my students are not required to wear masks, and I can't do my job sitting at a desk behind plexiglass. Teaching both in person and virtual simultaneously is not sustainable, nor is it in the best interest of our students. We're having to choose between them, and our efforts are focused on quality instruction. We're simply trying to survive each day without much help. Aren't we supposed to be in this together? In conclusion, my plea is simple, that you reconsider how early childhood instruction is being delivered, that what is being asked of teachers be reasonable and realistic, not unattainable, and that ineffective, pointless requirements be set aside and our efforts and time be spent on what is most effective and important for our students. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Robert, very much.
William Thomas.
Good evening, Superintendent Woods and board members. My name is Bill Thomas, and I'm working through my 17th year with the district. Thank you, Mr. Galindo, for hiring me, by the way. I'm currently at Zachary Middle School and hope to retire there in several years. I'm also a member of Northside AFT and have the honor to have been elected to the executive board. I don't envy the position you're in. The entire country is struggling with the COVID-19 issue, and our political disagreements aren't helping. I want to take it down to the micro level, in the trenches, if you will, where I work every day. In regards to safety guidelines, my school has supplied our faculty with cleaning supplies and has directed students in hallways and followed district and state guidelines. The school supplies masks to those who don't have one, and the students on the whole have been very good about wearing them appropriately. And bringing students back in the building is what's best for everyone. Too many virtual students are not completing even the simplest of assignments. Once back in the classroom, that changes. But has the board considered a situation where a special education student cannot or will not wear a mask and is endangering other students and teachers by his or her actions? At what point should a student be removed from a school for the safety of all if they cannot comply with safety guidelines? Second, we need to consider teacher stress and physical strain. Schoology demands so many repetitive hand movements. I'm on the keyboard and mouse so much that at the end of the day, my hands and forearms are sore. I'm worried that this may lead to carpal tunnel syndrome. In addition, teachers are on computers almost the entire day and evenings, leading to neck, shoulder, and back pain. Has the board considered asking teachers how Schoology could be improved to limit keyboard and mouse use? On the lighter side, I would have compared Google Classroom to driving Dad's station wagon, and Schoology is operating the space shuttle with Chinese instructions. It's very demanding and very repetitive. I'm not sure the board can alleviate any of these problems, but you should hear about them. They directly affect the quality of our teaching. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, sir.
Allison Branch.
Good evening. My name is Allison Branch. This is my 18th year as a teacher in NISD. I attended Broad Station, Stevenson, and graduated from Marshall High School. My own 2 children also attend an NISD school. My mom taught in NISD for 32 years. I've always been proud to work for the district where I got an excellent education. However, today I address you as a concerned parent and teacher. My concern is not something I think could happen or I am worried might happen. It is happening now. As of tonight, we have been teaching virtually and in person for just over 5 weeks. Northside has always put students first, excuse me. Teachers doing 2 jobs at once is not best for students. Teachers cannot give their full attention, which their students are deserving of, to their virtual and in-person learners at the same time. My own children's teachers are exceptional and go above and beyond, but I can see the toll that this is taking on their teachers, the other teachers in my building, and the other teachers around the district. We're giving our virtual and in-person students the best that we can. However, this is not what they deserve and what is best for them. It's not a sustainable way to teach. The 14 in-person students in my kinder classroom are 5 and 6 years old. They are some of our littlest learners that we have in our district, and I'm here to advocate for them as well. They need my full attention, especially this year, when many of them have academic gaps, lack of fine motor skills, and struggle with social skills. This is what I expected, given the current situation that we are in with COVID, but our teaching situation doesn't serve these students. Each day is a race to get through my Zoom meetings to help and manage my in-person students, and a race to teach and reinforce skills, eat lunch and clean it up, and Zoom again with my virtual students. Every teacher in this district, no matter what their students' ages, are having similar struggles. My in-person students need my full attention all day. My virtual students deserve my full attention, not me managing behaviors while on Zoom. We all know that this year is not normal. So many small things add up to so much every day. We teachers seem like we're fine during the school day. We put on the happy demeanor that our students deserve, but each teacher is experiencing levels of stress that cannot be sustained for the year. Our workload is not something that can be finished during the day or even the week. The majority of teachers are working at night and on the weekends. I have an amazing team who works together, supports each other, and truly cares for each other. Administrators who come by to check on how we're doing and are willing to just let us vent about how hard this really is. But what about those teachers that don't have that support system? There are so many teachers like me in Northside, committed to our students, wanting the absolute best for them and showing up every single day, but something has to change. I realize that there are many factors that have gone into making decisions this year, but using the analogy of airplane safety, it's time for the adults to put on their oxygen masks so they can help the children around them. In ISD, your teachers are running out of oxygen. The time to change expectations of teaching virtual and in person has to change. Our teachers and students deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Chris Contreras.
Good evening, President Harrell, Dr. Woods, trustees. Thank you for allowing me to speak here this evening. I'm a special ed teacher at middle school in Stinson. It's my 18th year. It's been a tough year, tough start. I started at home. I had the 8 weeks that I got to teach from home. And going to school was a fear for me. It was a fear for a lot of teachers. And the reason why is because it's such a strange world right now we're in. The science tells us to wear a mask, but the teachers are faced with students who don't wear masks necessarily. They'll walk between each other's desks, play with toys and things, and we have to make sure that they don't do that. It's a difficult task for us. On top of that, We have to, of course, Zoom for 15 minutes or more. Then we have to teach in the classroom, the other students that are still there in the classroom. And also we have to present them with lessons if they don't make it to the Zoom. That's a lot of work. My daughter, who teaches in Northeast, she said it was like this. It's like having a backyard barbecue where the patrons are out there and you create a burger or a hot dog and you make sure you don't burn it. Then you have a China dinner inside the house with fine china, and you have to follow those rules, make sure no one breaks anything or nothing really serious happens. And on top of that, you have to prepare a meal that goes home to the people who didn't make it. That's what it's like teaching this year in middle school or in high school or even in elementary school. One of the things that teachers really are frustrated with is having many meetings during the time that they're at school. We're supposed to be allowed 450 minutes every 2 weeks that we are allowed to have our time. But those minutes are being taken away, chipped away by meetings with principals, meetings with PLCs, meetings with other people who need to come see us for our time. That's taking away a lot of the time that teachers have to prepare their lessons at school. So what are they doing? They're preparing their lessons at home, taking hours of time. The survey that AFT did shows that many of the teachers express 1 to 4 hours of work every week. 50 teachers express 15 more hours every week that they have to work outside of the school. That takes up their weekends, takes up their family time. And if you're actually coming home at 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you cook dinner, you go home, 7 o'clock, you start work again. An average of 3 hours a day working on things that you have to do for school for the next day. That's not enough time, and it can't be sustained. You've heard that several times from the speakers. This cannot be sustained. I hope you will help to do something about that. Make sure that some of the meetings are canceled or taken away from some of these teachers so they can have their time at school to do the work that they need, so they can prepare the lessons and be the types of teachers that Northside always expects. And I'm so proud of our teachers. They've done a wonderful job so far, but it's difficult. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's it, Dr. Hall.
All right, that concludes citizens to be heard. We will move down to the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Or is there a motion before the board?
Dr. Harrell, I would.
Mr. Lopez, I'm sorry.
Excuse me.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, the ayes have it. The consent agenda has been approved. We will now move to facilities and operations. Mr. San Miguel?
Thank you, Dr. Harrell. We have several presentations for you tonight. The first one is the schematic design for the athletic upgrades at Coke Stevenson Middle School. As some of you may know, the 2018 bond program provided for a athletic upgrade, which really translated to the replacement of the existing gyms that are existing in locker showers, given their deficiencies in terms of space and so forth, so on. So from that perspective, we engaged Next Gen Architects to help us with the project. And as a result of that, they have a presentation for you. Tonight, we have Joel Hernandez and Raul Yanes. They'll give a presentation for us.
Good evening, Dr. Woods, Dr. Harrell, and the rest of the board. Thank you for allowing us to present tonight. So as Leroy mentioned, today we're presenting the athletic upgrades at Coke Stephen Middle School. Our engagement in this project began back in 2017. If some of, or most of all of you were here, we presented to you on July 25th of 2017 when you were preparing for the 2018 bond. And as part of that, we did an evaluation of several campuses, one of which was Stevens High School, or Stevens Middle School. And at that time, we looked at the deficiencies that existed in both the gymnasiums, both gymnasiums as well as in the locker areas, not meeting any of your current middle school standards. So we developed a plan, a very schematic plan in regards to the deficiencies of the square footage, and kind of came up with a schematic diagram of how we could add to that campus by removing the existing and replacing both the gymnasiums and the locker rooms. So just to give you some perspective in terms of, we have some aerials here of the campus. I don't have a pointer, so I can't really point, but the area that we're talking about is the one with the label athletics. Below that is your gymnasium, your existing gymnasium and locker room areas. That portion of the building is what we're proposing to demolish. And then here's another view of it from the rear side, with the play fields in the foreground. Some existing photos that we have here are to show kind of the existing conditions of some of the deficiencies that we have, not only in overall square footage, but in proximity of walls to the sidelines of existing basketball courts, as well as the dressing room. Square footages are deficient. And then on the exterior, we'll need to relocate the existing blacktop as well as portable buildings in order to place our building expansion. So the scope of the work was very simple. It's basically to replace and upgrade the competition and practice gymnasiums, the boys and girls locker rooms, and then all of the support facilities that go along with it. In addition to that, we're doing a 20 foot by 20 foot exterior storage building, which is part of your standards. And then, as I mentioned, we're replacing the paved play court, which will be demolished as part of the expansion. Thank you.
At least one screen.
Thank you. I guess I'll point over here, since this one everybody can see, I think. So in terms of schematic design, here's your existing building in gray. This is your current athletics and that current playground area, as well as the location of currently where your portable buildings are. We've got some diagrams on the right to show you kind of how these things lay out. So the items indicated in red are the items that will be demolished, and then the items indicated in yellow are the portable buildings that will be relocated. So in blue now, we have the area where our footprint of our new proposed building will fit, as well as where our new play court will fit. And in addition to that, the red dashed line is indicating where our construction zone is. One of the things that we always are very careful about is ensuring that we have a clear separation of where the contractor is working and where students are operating. So students will be basically surrounding that construction site, but nonetheless, we will have a clear separation between the two so that we don't mix any of those functions. And then here is kind of our final design in regards to the footprint of the building, the paved play court, and then the relocation of the portables, which actually is in flux right now and actually may move to another location, but nonetheless, they will be relocated. And then once we're done, the idea was the two portables that were going to be used for temporary locker rooms would be removed and would be the spaces available for future portables. So in terms of our design, as you can see, we've highlighted the existing building in white with the yellow corridors highlighted just kind of for ease of view. But as you can see, we're basically tying in with a corridor as the dividing line between the existing building and our new building. And then we still have a clear path of circulation for students to not only use the gymnasium, but be able to access the fields and the parking lot on the side of the building. So as I mentioned, our task was very simple. We basically had to, 4 main components, one being the competition and the practice gym. We have a girls' locker room with all of its support facilities mirrored by a boys' locker room, and then shared common spaces in between, which is, click, there we go. You know, things like the weight room, laundry, some of those shared spaces are the items that fit in between. And then in terms of the locker areas, We both have lockers for athletics as well as for PE for both boys and girls. We have a coach's office and then restrooms and showers to support that. In addition to that, and we'll be showing some images here shortly, we working in a campus like this one where it has quite a bit of history. There have been quite a bit of trophies and things that have accumulated over the years. So we're proposing to have a kind of wall of champions here to kind of acknowledge some of that with a display case and some graphics. And this here is where that intersects to the existing campus. So this is kind of the entrance that leads out to the staff and visitor parking lot. So as parents would come into the gymnasium, they would be able to go into this area here and use the seating there, restrooms to accommodate them, and then once again, that kind of wall of fame there. And then this leads more for the students. This is an area where they can go out into the athletic fields, and then we also have access directly from the locker rooms here and here, directly from the locker room to those athletic fields. And then the last thing I would point out is in that upper right-hand corner, we have a set of restrooms that will serve those football fields and outdoor fields that they have for after-hour events. Following are some images kind of what we propose. This is the competition gym. And here's a view from the bleachers back in the opposite direction. And then this is the practice gym. So it basically mirrors the competition gym without the bleachers. And then in terms of colors, we're obviously dealing with an existing campus once again. So the common colors throughout in Stevens are this kind of gray and maroon with some blue that was, I guess, part of the original colors of the school. But obviously the school colors are gray and maroon, or we'll call it silver and maroon. Here's our kind of proposed image for that Wall of Champions. So we'll have some display cases. And then as I mentioned earlier, this portion here is what to the right is where that existing corridor would be the focal point here. This is the entry that leads to that visitor parking lot. So parents would come into here and then go into immediately to the right to go into the gym or come in this direction if they're going to use the facilities. In terms of exterior views, this is that entry I was just talking about. So as you walk in from the staff and visitor parking lot, you enter the building through here, go to the right to go to the gymnasium, go straight to go to the Wall of Champions. And we're going to work our way around the building to the right. So this, once again, just to orient you, is the parking lot and for staff and visitors. That entrance is right here. So as we work our way around, you'll see other exits that lead from the gymnasium as well as from the locker areas as we work our way around. But here's a view of that blacktop area that will be relocated once the building has been expanded. And then once again, working our way around the building, there's that blacktop area. This lower portion of the building is basically the boys, girls locker room, as well as the weight room. So here's those entrances into the restrooms that will be available for visitors when they're there for outdoor activities like football or soccer. And then lastly, we were asked to take a look at the front entry and see if we could give it a bit of a facelift. So we're basically, this is what the front entry looks like. In terms of perspective, this is the entry into our new building. So just to the left of it here is where that entry lies. This portion that is highlighted here is what you see right there. So what we're proposing to do is bring some of the colors and materials that we're using in our existing one. So one was to do a very minimal approach to it and basically just do a small section as highlighted on the plan here, which is that view, or a little bit more expansive to try to do a little larger one and give that whole front end a facelift. And with that, we'll open it up to any questions you may have.
Okay, Ms. Reed?
Yeah, I'm thinking I like the last one better, but just
this one?
To go back, yeah, no, that one, yeah. To go back to one of the diagrams that you have here,
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know, it's on page 19, I guess it says that staff parking is to the right. And
Yes.
actually, that's visitor parking and some staff, right?
Yes, it serves as both, as I understand.
Yeah, it says on here, staff. And I'm going to say, this is the main entrance, so that has to be visitors in the front row.
Yes.
And the visitor parking that's over on the side, should that not be staff parking?
Could you go back to
Because
this?
that goes to the classrooms. It's on 19.
Right
There.
there. So, it's visitor and staff right here. And then we have that
The
portion.
visitor over on the right side should really probably be staff parking because that leads right into the classrooms.
This one here.
No, the one down on the bottom,
This one.
right there.
Yeah, it's not very much, but yes.
It may not be enough, but it should certainly be staff rather than visitors. Visitors
Right.
shouldn't
I
be
think we
parking over there.
took the label from what was on the plans, but you're probably right. They probably
Okay, I just
reappropriated
want to
that
make
for
sure
staff.
you get that.
Yes,
sort of
ma'am.
Organized, because we shouldn't have visitors trying to get into the building
No,
over there.
no, you're 100% right.
Okay, thank you. That's all I
So
wanted
Ms.
to make
Reed,
sure.
to your point, I know there was a discussion about additional parking.
Yeah.
Obviously, this campus is challenged when it comes to parking.
Right.
We're about 150 parking spaces different or short from a new school.
Right.
And so we asked Joel and Raul to look at that for us. And there is an opportunity to add more parking in that geographical area. Of course, we're going to knock down some trees, which is probably going to cost us a little bit of money. But more importantly, that cost to add another 100 and some odd paces is a little over $1 million.
Wow.
At this point in time, because we are at budget or slightly over budget, even the front that we were talking about is not in our budget. But I can assure you that we will endeavor to move forward with putting that as an alternate so we can see what that would look like in terms of the front, because we believe that is the right thing to do at this point in time. It'll be a while before we go back to Stevenson. So from that perspective, we're going to put that as an alternate because it's an easy alternate. I know that Joel and Raul worked on it pretty hard. And we feel that's going to do a justice to the project, given that we have a new piece that we added that will showcase some of the athletics as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Good catch, Katie. Thank you. And thank you for that update.
And
Oh,
then,
Ms. Freeman?
Are we approving this tonight?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
On for
So
approval.
then before we finish, then the last diagram that's in the last piece that's in here with the front where
Yeah.
the front of the
The whole thing.
administration area
One
is
more.
all one, has
Yeah,
all one line that pulls it more
That's correct.
together rather than the smaller one. I would certainly consider, that would be my recommendation.
You mean the larger area of new facing?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the last picture in the book.
That's it right there on the screen. It's a larger encompassing more of the front.
Ms. Reed, is that a motion?
Is that, would you like to make that into a motion?
Sure, I'd be happy to make that into a motion. I recommend that, or I move that we accept the final drawing in the booklet so far as the front of the administration area.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Freeman?
I would second, but I have a question.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
During the building committee meeting, and Katie, I know you were there, we had a discussion about the competition gym and the other gym, and I think we talked around perhaps having some sort of partitioned wall there. There was a question about, did we need two competition gyms? What was the comment?
The comments that I recall were about some level of seating in the practice gym. That's what I recall, and whether or not that was in the new standard.
Right.
And I know Leroy's ready to comment on that.
Yes.
That's the question.
Okay,
There
thank
were
you.
actually two comments. One is a partition that divides both of them, making a larger space. And then there was a seating opportunities for smaller games and things of that nature. What we did the research, and I know Jerry is here, and we'll blame Jerry if it doesn't work out. But what he did, he has done the last two new middle schools. And what he refreshed my memory is we do have seating in the practice gym 2 rows that fold up so that we can use it fully. And so we're going to mimic that in this particular project as well. So we'll have some level of seating.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. I did remember how we talked about it, but not the specific questions.
And
I appreciate that.
I don't know that you'd probably ever have games going on, competitive games going on in both gyms at the same time. So for the smaller groups, that smaller gym or the gym without the regular bleachers, with just the pull-out bleachers should be fine.
And Ms. Freeman, you were correct about the partition. That was the other question that came up.
That was it.
You're right. And it was about the school Ms. Chumley had seen back in the day when we took her on a tour, 2000, I guess.
Over to Houston.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Which is.
That's it, Dr. Harrell.
Yeah, thank you very much. Any more discussion? All right, we have a
I
motion.
would maybe change my motion to approve the design as presented along with the final picture of the exterior of the academic area, administration.
Administration, okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. All right, the design has been approved for Stevenson Middle School. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Reed, on a
Good
personal
job.
note,
Thank
I've
you.
known you for 20 years.
Aw.
And you'll be missed. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Everything you've done for us.
thanks.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Item B.
The next item we have for you is schematic design for Powell Elementary School. Some of you may remember that we came before the board to look at the master plan and try to decide what we believe to be the right thing to do in terms of the long-range plan for Powell. And so now we quickly turn into, let's get on with the project that was in the 2018 bond, which is providing a cafeteria and gym upgrade. And so today we have Pfluger and Associates is going to give us a presentation. I think Andrew is going to give that presentation to us. And then Carl is running around there handing out goodies.
Thank you, Mr. San Miguel. Dr. Woods, Dr. Harrell, board members, and senior staff, thank you for the opportunity to present the schematic design for Powell Elementary School this evening. You may recall we were with you about a month ago to talk about the master plan options for Powell, and so we have turned that into our schematic design that you're going to see this evening. So going to the next slide. Very quickly, just to recap, we are focusing on the removal and replacement of the existing cafeteria and gymnasium you see outlined in red here on our plan. Next. Thank you. Here you see the new proposed site plan that actually attaches the combination cafeteria and gymnasium to the existing pre-K kinder wing located on the campus. This is basically phase 1 in the master plan of the ultimate campus replacement, with that kinder wing staying in place through the duration of construction. On the site here, you'll see that we've actually been able to relocate parking to the north end of the site, taking advantage of the existing blacktop. We are also constructing an extended parent drop-off lane, which will take a portion of the footprint of the cafeteria that was demolished, leaving space on the north end for future expansion in another bond issuance. And lastly, you can see on the east end of the addition, we've got the service drive with the blacktop play fields. One last item I want to mention before we move on is that we were asked to look at potentially finding a space to relocate the bus loop in the future. And so what we're looking at is on the far right, the ability to extend that with some manipulation of those blacktop play fields to allow you to go ahead and move the bus loop in the future. So moving on to the floor plan, you can see here that we've got the proposed cafeteria gymnasium setup that is more equitable to what you see in newer elementary school designs in the Northside District. You have the cafeteria attached to a platform, which also has access to a music classroom next to the platform, again, which is pretty common in your newer facilities. We have a connecting corridor that allows direct access into the pre-K kinder wing. On the far north end of our building addition, you can see the support spaces for both the cafeteria and gymnasium, including single user restrooms that actually feed both. This is a function of the fact that the kinder wing itself does not have group restrooms, and so we acknowledge the fact that there is a need for more restroom access in a building that's separate like this. And we also have introduced a family restroom as well for use during PTA events and the like. The last thing we wanted to look at on the floor plan itself is the kitchen, which you can see located on the south end of the cafeteria that feeds into the serving line and is outfitted as a standard elementary school north side kitchen. So moving on to looking at the history of the campus itself, these images are meant to help convey the materiality of what we're going to present to you this evening. And so we honed in on 3 different aspects of what you actually have on campus now, with multiple separate buildings all having very similar construction, including what's called a Trinity blend brick veneer. So that brick you see there is actually the brick they use at Trinity University. We also have a plaster band located at the top of the wall to try to raise the roof, which has a distinct overhang function. And so we want to take into account all 3 of those features in what we're presenting for the actual building. Another thing we wanted to look at bringing into the design of this facility is the use of glazed brick. And so here you just see a couple of examples of some accent banding, and the example on the right actually shows you what we would propose to do in this case, where we would actually inset that glazed brick in the design of the exterior. One other design aspect we are also looking at is how to create a projecting brick banding. So we're looking at using that Trinity brick and working with just minimal half-inch projections to create a texture on the building. And so you can see a projected alternating bond accent, and then another example, which is Flemish bond over here. And so we wanted to look at that as another design feature for this building. With all of that said, what you see here is the southwest perspective view showing the public entrance, if you will, to the cafeteria with some of the expanded visitor parking located along the parent drop-off lane. And you can start to see hints of that accent brick veneer on the lower end of the building, which again would have a field of the Trinity red brick and a plaster raised surface holding up the overhang roof on top of the whole building. Looking at a little bit more zoomed in view here, you can see naturally we will be coming to you in the future to present colors, but we pulled this design using inspiration from the campuses that are actually being fed from Powell Elementary School. So we looked at Ross Middle School and Holmes High School. And so that's where the idea of using these yellows and greens came into play as an example of what we can do with that glazed brick banding. As we start to circumvent around the building and head to the southeast view, this is where we foresee introducing the brick patterning, if you will. And so that's where you see that projected brick, and you can see how we've introduced little pockets of that around the southeast side and then heading to the east end of the building that leads down into the blacktop playfield areas. This is just another view showing you the east perspective coming out of the gymnasium and down onto your black as a function not only of requirements for code, but also just the nice natural light in the building with windows or potentially translucent glazed panels. The last perspective image we have for you is showing the northeast end where the building is actually tying into the kinder pre-K wing. And so you can see that we've created those support spaces a little bit lower to work with the existing building and naturally tie into that and connect to that corridor that we anticipate adding in here. One of the things that we did want to do in presenting this information to you is to kind of go back to what we presented at the master plan and show you what this is going to ultimately look like. And in addition to that, what it's going to look like when we're done with this particular project. So the image on the left shows you how the campus will stand when we are done replacing your cafeteria and gymnasium with our new building addition. And then the image on the right shows the realized complete master plan that was approved at the last board meeting. We've also got a couple of front elevations because we do think it's important to show you what the new street front view is for this campus. So again, on the top, you can see what it will look like when this project is completed. And then on the bottom, you will see how this will look after the new administration wing is built, as well as the classrooms that you can start to see hiding behind that. And with that said, we thank you for your time this evening and would like to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Any questions, any comments? Ms. Freeman?
Yes, just Dr. Harrell, just from the building committee, when we looked at it, the design is just absolutely beautiful. The brick on the outside, the textured design that you have, and then some of the brick color. We just thought it was a really nice design. It'll be a huge improvement to the school.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Freeman? Ms. Reed? Literally.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Blunt seconded. So all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. All right, the ayes have it. And so Powell gets a new facelift. Thank you very much. Yay. All right, schematic design, Hobby Middle School.
Now that we're on a roll, we'll continue on to Hobby. As some of you may know, the 2018 bond program provided for some science upgrades. It's an initiative that we have had for quite a while in the district. And so with us is Alamo Architects. That would be Jerry Lammers, who is going to present to us the upgrades for our science program at Hobby. Oh, there you are. Oh, Jerry.
Good evening, Dr. Harrell, Dr. Woods, members of the board. As Leroy said, we're here to show you Hobby Middle School. And the scope of the work is really to take the existing science facility and bring it up to the current district standards, which are 9 science classrooms. So next slide. Hobby is at the corner of Vance Jackson and Huebner. There is a science building actually that Pfluger did in the early 2000s. On the upper left, you can see it. It's a 2-story building. Our task is really to take that building and bring it up to the current T8 science standards. Next slide. That building is a 2-story building. On the right, you can see the building itself, and then I'll walk you around the building. Photo number 1 is leading to the building. Folder number 2 is looking to the right, as you can see. 3 is around the corner. 4 is in the back of the building. 5 is entering the back. And 6, there's a small little courtyard that's behind the building. Next slide. So at Hobby, resource planning tells us that there are 9 underutilized classrooms. And what that allows us to do is if we take 6 of those classrooms for our science project, they'll still have 3 for future use. The other thing it allows us to do is allow us to accomplish this project without doing an addition. So we can just do it all with interior remodeling and no actual building addition. So the next slide is the existing arrangement of the classrooms on this area of the building. On the left, you can see that there are 4 science classrooms on the first floor and then 5 science classrooms on the second floor. Also located around the building, around this area as well, are several general classrooms, 2 art classrooms, and special ed classrooms. So our proposal is, next slide, please. Well, first, let me show you the difference between Hobby, the current size, and what's being done for your standard or new middle schools and the other remodeling that we've done at the other science programs. So currently at Hobby is about 1,100 square feet, and the new standard is 1,400 square feet, plus a little bit larger of a prep room that's associated with it. So this is the renovated scheme. It's, again, all interiors. So starting on the first floor on the left, we're going to take what were 4 science classrooms and convert it into 2 science classrooms, 2 prep rooms, and a chemical storage room. And the leftover space will be converted into 2 regular classrooms. And then moving into the older part of the building, Building A, we're going to take 5 classrooms on the left and convert them into 2 science classrooms and a prep room, and then 5 classrooms on the right and convert it into 2 science classrooms, a prep room, 2 teachers' restrooms, and a storage area. as well as a custodial closet. Now we're doing the teacher's restrooms, custodial closet, and the storage area because we're displacing those with the renovation of those classrooms to the left. And then on the second floor, we're taking 2 science classrooms and an adjacent third science classroom and renovating them on the right into 2 science classrooms, a prep room, and then on the left, 1 science classroom and a prep room. And that's really the scope of our project, the building. We're able to accomplish the goal of the project with just renovating the interior. And then the budget estimate is about $5 million for the project. And
Okay,
that's it.
any discussion? The outside looks beautiful, by the way, too. So, my gosh,
It is, yeah, well, actually, Sean did
Right.
that in the previous project.
Beautiful.
So to his credit, they did a great job.
whole nother school. Drive slow and you can see it.
it's very
All right.
nice.
Any comments or questions? Anything the building committee would like to add? Okay, any motion? Okay, Ms. Reed moved for approval, second.
Second.
Ms. Freeman, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. All right, we approve Tobby.
I'd also like to thank you, Mrs. Reed. I know your service to NEF has been, this year you're on the board and rotating it off, and I've also known you for, like Joel, almost 20 years, so I appreciate it.
So nice. All right, item D, Taft High School Library Edition.
This presentation, you know, colors are traditionally are not presented under the facilities and operations part of the board agenda. However, several suggestions were made during our building committee that merit a presentation to the entire board. A full suggestion centered around the front elevation of the building. Therefore, an abbreviated presentation will be presented tonight by Sean Carlson, reflecting some of the options from which to select from.
Good evening, Dr. Harrell, Dr. Woods, members of the board. I want to start by saying, as a parent of a Northside high schooler and a husband of a Northside teacher, thank you for all the difficult decisions you guys have made. And in advance, thank you for all the difficult decisions you're probably going to have to make here in the near future. I'm glad my job's much easier. As Mr. San Miguel said, we presented to the building committee, and I believe all the materials and colors were acceptable, but there was some concern about our curved wall being too red. So as presented at the building committee, this is the curved wall in question. It's a red glazed structural tile, and this is, we're calling option 1, or as presented. If you will go to the next slide. A different view, a different perspective coming to the main entry at the high school. So you can see, you know, it is noticeable. It is prominent. So as for option 2, we were asked to use the same materials and come up with a different approach to it. So if you'll go to the next slide, please. Option 2, we decided we're matching the existing brick. So this is a darker color. They wanted to band the side. So we actually did that to kind of reduce a little bit of the red, but also anchor it with this existing brick. If you go to the next slide, please. And when you look at the same view, it's really hard to see because the wall curves. So you actually see just basically the prominent red. This is option 2. Option 3, next slide, please, was to raise the sill up to minimize the red in height. So we presented this, which is like 2 courses of the structural glazed tile underneath the window. Next. And then that's the same view looking back. It does diminish the red somewhat. And then to look at all of them together on the same slide. And I think we're looking for an option that the board is Yes, ma'am. We have the, yeah,
I think, Katie, can you turn on your mic, I think, and just kind of repeat some of the.
I'm sorry, I forgot to turn it on. I'm not going to repeat all that, though.
Start with the color red.
Yeah, the red, I think this looks a little bit more like the actual sample that we saw, but when we had the building committee, it looked brighter than that.
A
So
lot
I
of times it's
kind of like this. And those people who have a real tie-in to Taft, tell me which one you like best.
I like option one. You're gonna have it red, show it. I guess
And behind those windows is the library?
yes, ma'am. It's the library. It's the area where the kids
where
can
they'll be
sit and
seating, where
study
the
and look
kids can
out.
sit looking out the windows with plugged in.
And Bobby, say why you like option one more red.
Because I know it caused controversy with you all if I said
Oh.
option one. That's why we're meeting. No, you know I'm not a color
We need a
person.
little
No, if we're gonna have it red, let it show. So I like option one. I definitely don't like, I'm getting in trouble. I don't like three, but I definitely like one.
Well, I think, aren't they the Red Raiders?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
why it's-
I go for it. No, I know. Go for it. More red, the better.
I've always been a little partial to
Any other
red myself.
discussion?
So.
Everybody, any motion?
Let me make sure I understand. Is Mr. Blunt making a colors motion?
No, I did not make.
Oh, that's a first. Oh,
Making a choice.
For the record, I did not make a motion. I was asking.
Katie's passing on the torch.
I thought you and I had an agreement that
No,
that would never
Katie's
happen.
passing on the torch. They must have had a pre-talk. I love it. No, seriously, is there a motion on the?
Yeah.
I second Mr. Blount's first motion. I'll second.
All right, Bobby, is there a motion,
We
please?
can make the motion for number one. That's the one you liked anyway, wasn't it, John?
Yeah, am I allowed to make the motion?
No.
All right, Miss Reed,
You
do
like
us the
number one
honors.
better, that's the one that you brought us. right,
Yeah.
to begin with.
Okay, go for it, Miss Reed.
I'd make the motion that we approve drawing number one.
Mr. Blunt?
I'll second it. That's
All
officially
right.
making it.
Okay, option one. All those in favor of option one, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, or any other option, I should say? No, okay, the ayes have it, option one carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you, Sean.
To
Is
Ms. Reed's
Joseph still with
point,
us?
the actual color samples are in the little ante room. So anybody cares to see it, Bobby, if
Where
you
we'll
want to
be
check those
there.
colors out, they're there.
That's where we were for the meeting.
Yeah. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Be safe. All right. Business and finance budget amendment number one for school year 2020, 2021. Mr. Barajas?
So just to
Mr.
preface, and I said it before, I'll just reiterate, because of the amount of uncertainty on both the revenue side as well as the expenditure side going forward, we chose in BA1, which we typically bring to the board in October, not to guess about either side of those. So what you're going to see is kind of a very standard budget amendment in spite of the completely non-standard situation in which we're operating. We hope to have more clarity either late in the calendar year or early in the next calendar year that would allow us to speculate more or feel better about our speculation on both the revenue and expenditure side. So with that, Dr. Barajas, I'll get out of your way.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Woods. So really, there's typical adjustments that were made for BA number one, exclusive of the items that Dr. Wood mentioned. The expenditures were increased by a net $9.8 million. The major items include campus carry forward of about $5.4 million, a purchase order carry forward of $1.7, and two items at about $500,000 each, pre-K expansion, continuing the work that facilities is doing for those classrooms, as well as a health services initiative, and that makes up the bulk of the $9.8 million. Next slide, please. Some other items of interest are recognizing the use of $584,000 of previously assigned fund balance for construction related to athletics. And those are the items that the board back in 18 pulled out of the bond issue and put those dollars aside for the items that facilities is working on. We're also transferring out $2.3 million to a capital projects fund so we can account for the roof repairs related to the 2016 hail damage in a fund that is separate from the general fund. This is an easier way for us to account for those dollars. And that is the bulk of BA number 1.
Pending questions, this is also for approval tonight.
Any questions? Oh, Mr. Lopez?
Thank you, Dr. Woods. I'm sorry, Dr. Harrell. Renee did present this in the Finance Committee meeting last week, and there was some good discussion about it. And exactly to Dr. Wood's point, it's a very conservative budget amendment. So I would move that we approve the budget amendment number 1 for the school year 2020-21 as recommended by staff.
Okay, Mr. Lopez has made a motion. Is there a second? All right, Mr. Blunt has seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. All right, it has been approved, and I don't want to leave Mr. Medina out, so next time I'll let you make the motion and approve, okay?
Okay.
All right, gotcha. Thank you. Now let me get back to the agenda. All right, now we are on item B, first reading of policies CCA local and CH local. Mr. Barajas?
Yes, ma'am. The first item is under the rubric of debt management policy that our debt management policy requires that the board really staff review it. And in reviewing it, we are making a recommendation to add an item to CCA local, which is including advanced refundings as a method of refunding bonds in the future. That was taken out a few years ago, but given the volatile nature of the markets, we feel that it is in our best interest to at least have that flexibility should we get into a situation where we can advance refund. And currently we cannot because it's not in board policy. The second policy is CH, which, as Mr. Lopez indicated, we did speak at the Finance Committee, and we're asking for 2 changes and 1 addition. The first change we're asking for is under the purchasing authority to increase the amount from $50,000 to $100,000, and that is for items that come to the board for approval. We're asking for under the categorical exemptions to the amounts that we bring to the board, to remove one of the exemptions, which is the cooperative or state purchasing programs approved by the board. Despite the fact that it is an exemption, which means that we would not have to bring that to the board either at 50,000 or if it should change to 100,000, our current practice is that we do. So rather than change practice, we're going to continue that practice and have that removed from CH local. The third change is to actually add language regarding sole source contracts. This language basically gives the superintendent or designee the ability to go through and determine whether or not we're going to move forward with a sole source contract, of which we currently, I believe, Mr. Scott, have, that looks like 8? 9, okay. So those are the changes that we're recommending to CH local for first reading and CCA local first reading as well.
Just a comment, if I could, Dr. Harrell, on CH. Yes, the recommended change on CH at the bottom of page 1 to go from $50,000 to $100,000 on the purchasing authority. That was generated by some study of some of the other large districts in Texas and comparing our threshold to others, and found that ours, frankly, was lower than some of the other larger districts, even some that aren't as large as we are. And so that's what generated that. So just wanted to bring that as a suggestion, but if the board is more comfortable leaving it where it is, we'll leave it where it is. I'll just say that.
So this is up for discussion. Are there any other questions? I just real quick, can you tell us what then the approval process would be? So what, if we needed, let's say, new playgrounds, for instance, take us through that process now that there's some minor changes in it for contracts?
Well, it really just
Goods or
changes the
services.
amount that we bring to the board that requires approval. Instead of it being $50,000, it's now at $100,000.
Got that, but the sole source piece.
Well, the sole source piece is an issue that, for instance, there are very few things that are sole source, but in the event that we do run across something that lends itself to be a sole source contract, meaning nobody else can provide that particular widget or service or whatever it happens to be, before we enter into that, but this language is essentially providing is that the superintendent or designee will look at this and then make that determination from that perspective rather than just having purchasing, for instance, go ahead and say this is sole source. So it gives another level of another set of eyes looking at it to make sure that this does indeed pass muster and it is a sole source
So
contract.
we're not eliminating that step, in other words. It's still there. We're just have another layer of eyes or approval
It's
process.
codifying it in our
Sorry, I
local
should have asked the
policy.
question another way, starting with sole source. Good,
Yes,
thank
ma'am.
you.
Yeah, it's really just adding another, and we've always been pretty careful before we go out for a contract like that. And this just kind of codifies that we're going to have a senior level individual okay that before we would enter into a sole source
I agree.
contract.
Okay, thank you very much. So this is discussion only. We will now move to item C. And that is up for approval, item C.
Yes,
Actually,
ma'am.
these
And
C, D, and E.
C, D, and E are part
They
and
all
parcel
together?
together. Yes, ma'am.
Separate.
They'll need to be three
Separate?
separate motions.
Okay.
These are the bond
Bonding language.
parameter orders that we bring annually to the board in October. And Dr. Barajas can explain each of them. We will need separate action, but as we typically do in October, we bring similar, just like these three each year.
Good, thank you.
So the three orders, parameter authorizations, parameter orders include language for us to do advanced refundings should that option be available to us. That is, on the second reading of CCA, should the board approve of the advanced refundings, we're good to go from that perspective as well. The two main series that we're looking at are the Series 2012 with a call date of August 15th. This is going to be a current refunding. The second major series, next slide please, is the variable rate 2016, which again, these orders cover. Aside from that, we also have the ability to, next slide please. Again, they're going to be fixed rate, variable rate, and remarketing. And then those three particular orders, which as you can tell are quite lengthy. We talked about that at the Finance Committee meeting where, I don't know, they're 50, 60 pages each, but bond counsel likes to write a lot. So these parameter authorizations are going to give us that ability to do fixed rate, variable rate, and remarketing. Next slide, please. In addition to the 2012 series and 2016 series, this is also going to give us the ability to sell up to $250 million of new money from the 2018 authorization. A potential current refunding of commercial paper should we decide to issue commercial paper of up to $100 million. And there are several series totaling $351.2 million that may become eligible for advanced refundings, and this gives us that flexibility because we have no idea what January, February, March are going to do as far as rates and where they're going to be. If we find that we could take advantage of those favorable rates with an advanced refunding, this is going to give us that flexibility.
So at this point, we can ask the board to consider action on each of these three items. I do want to echo something that that Renee said. As we do each year, we've tried to write these orders such that they incorporate as much flexibility so that we can look at market conditions when we need to go out and issue debt in a way that's in the best interest of the taxpayers of the school district. We anticipate that subsequent to the election, there may be some instability in the markets, and so that flexibility is probably more important this fiscal year than it may have been in many. So I just wanted to underscore that point.
Mr. Lopez, did you have any comments from the committee?
No, I think Brian talked about pretty much what we talked about at the committee meeting. So
Would you
if
like to
anybody
make a
else has
motion?
any questions.
Okay. Is there a motion?
So, okay, well, I have some specific language that I need to read. I move that the Board of Trustees adopt an order authorizing the issuance by the Northside Independent School District of its fixed rate unlimited tax school building and/or refunding bonds in one or more series as designated by purpose and series pursuant to a delegated sale.
Okay. All right, there's a second from Mr. Blunt. Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. All right, item C has been approved. Item D?
Yeah, that would be, I'm sorry, D.
I'm sorry. You weren't going to talk about anything? Nothing?
I think
Okay.
we've discussed, yes, we needed the motion.
Okay. Dr. Harrell,
Sure. Yes, sir.
I move that the Board of Trustees adopt an order authorizing the issuance by the Northside Independent School District of its variable rate unlimited tax school building and/or refunding bonds in one or more series as designated by purpose and series pursuant to delegated sale.
All right, it's been motioned by Mr. Lopez and seconded by Mrs. Reed. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. All right, the ayes have it, and item D has been approved. Item E?
Dr. Harrell, I move that the Board of Trustees adopt an order by the Board of Trustees of the Northside Independent School Districts authorizing the remarketing of Northside Independent School District's variable rate unlimited tax school building bonds, Series 2016, pursuant to a delegated sale.
Okay, is there a second? All right, Ms. Freeman has seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. All right, item E has been approved. All right, thank you very, very much. We appreciate it. And now we are moving to further celebrate Debbie Glass's birthday by having her at 8:45. Well, what else were you going to do on a Tuesday night, right?
Way past my bedtime.
I know. Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you. So tonight, Dr. Woods, Dr. Harrell, members of the board, we're seeking approval on our property insurance renewal. I think all of you have this information in front of you. The current policy for property and boiler machinery insurance expires November 16th, 2020. Last year, we did an RFP 2019-190, which provided a $400 million loss limit with a wind hail deductible of $5 million per occurrence. This was a 3-year policy with the option to renew an additional 2 years. Over the past 5 years, we have seen a constant increase in premium and deductible. In policy year 2015-16, when the $70 million hailstorm hit the district, we had a premium of a little under $1 million with a $250,000 deductible. Since 2016, the premium went from $1 million to $3 million, and the deductible increased from $250,000 to $5 million per occurrence. The ongoing and recent catastrophic losses that have occurred and continue to occur across the U.S. contribute to the rates for all commercial policies. The premium for NISD is also impacted due to the 2016 $70 million hailstorm claim that remains open, along with the most recent NISD hailstorm claim that occurred on April 13, 2019, valued at approximately $5.5 million. The spreadsheet that you have included in your package provides various renewal options, ranging from $100 million to $400 million loss limits. We could also continue with the 5 million per occurrence deductible for wind hail damage, or we could increase it to 6 million or 7.5 million, which would lower our premium slightly. Our recommendation is to renew with our current vendor with a 400 million loss limit and a 5 million deductible per occurrence, the same as our expiring coverage, at a premium of a little over 3.5 million.
Just to add to what Debbie said, we did some analysis of what increasing the per occurrence out of pocket would be. We looked at lowering the loss limit and just found that the decreases in premiums for those things was really just not worth the additional substantial risk that the district would take on. So I'll echo what Debbie said. We recommend renewing essentially the policy that we are coming off of in the current year at a premium of just over 3.5 million.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion or any motions? All right, Mr. Lopez?
So yeah, we did discuss this in policy, in finance as well. So I move that we approve the property and boiler machinery insurance as presented by staff.
All right, is there a second? There's a second by Ms. Reed. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. All right, it has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you so
Debbie,
much.
happy birthday.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All right.
Debbie.
Thanks. First reading of local policies, TASB policy update. Oh, we moved that.
Thankfully, we've done
We've
that.
covered those.
Boy, we did good.
You get to skip two.
Yeah, yay. Administrative boundary proposal for Strauss Middle School.
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Harrell, Dr. Woods, trustee. So earlier this year, we put a cap in place at Folks Middle School to control some of the overcrowding. Currently, we have students going to Briscoe and Jefferson. And so in August of 21, we will open Strauss Middle School, which we hope will really help in relieving folks as well as to some lesser degree Briscoe. And so here to present that proposal to you is Ms. T. Ricord. Ms. Ricord.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Dr. Harrell, Dr. Woods, members of the board. I'm T. Ricord, here to tell you a little bit about the boundary proposal for Strauss Middle School. Strauss is the 21st middle school. Northside will open. Ms. Reed, 31 years, you've been through quite a few of these boundaries, and we thank you for all of those. We will take a look at the current boundaries for the middle schools. I'm going to show you with the pointer. The majority of this area here on the far northwest of the north side boundary, the black lines indicate the middle school boundaries. This is Folks Middle School. It's quite large and includes the high growth areas on the Calabria corridor. Just the south side of the Calabria Road is the boundary for, for Briscoe Middle School, which will also be included as part of this boundary. When Strauss opens, it will provide much needed relief for folks primarily. On base day this year, Folks Middle School opened with 1,783 students. That's with the cap in place. It would have been over 1,900 students had the cap not been in place. And it has a target enrollment of 1,400 and is projected to grow from over 2,000 students to 2,700 or more over the course of 10 years. Briscoe Middle School had 1,581 on base day and would grow to about 1,700 over the course of that 10-year period. So it needs a little bit of relief as well. The proposed boundary plan for Strauss Middle School includes, as I said, the majority of the area for Strauss comes from Folks Middle School. Basically, it cuts Folks in half. And it starts in the far northwest area of the district in Bandera County off of Highway 16, comes down Park Road 37, has areas from Medina County, Bear Springs and Dancing Bear on the far west. We could also come down Highway 211 and a portion of Highway 16 North and North Helotes. The neighborhoods here off of Culebra Road are closest to Strauss location, and it's near Culebra, just before the county line and Tally Road. Those neighborhoods are very high growth, very, very large. Neighborhoods like Wingate Ranch, Callison Ranch, Valley Ranch, Waterford Park, still growing. There's a small portion of Briscoe Middle School's boundary that is closest to Strauss Middle School, that is just off of Culebra Road. And it's there we go, the zoomed in version. This is Culebra Road right here. This is Tally Road. And these are areas that are part of Briscoe. So they would be Country Oaks Mobile Home Park off of Tally Road, Winding Brook, which is a brand new neighborhood. Drove it the other day, one home that currently has a resident and many under construction, and Cobblestone, which is right off of Culebra. The resulting effects of this boundary provide significant relief to Folks Middle School. When Strauss opens, Folks would be 1319, in 5 years, 1431, and in 10 years, 1479, so very close to its target of 1400. Briscoe Middle School would be 1349 when Strauss opens, 1404 in 5 years, and 1414. Would grow to 1249 and 1580 in 10 years if it didn't receive any relief from a future school. So Briscoe and Strauss may have additional relief in future schools should they be approved by a bond or should a boundary change be necessary. Comparing the opening of Strauss Middle School with other middle schools, 820 for Strauss Middle School in its first year is very comparable to Bernal that opened in 1415 with 618 students. Folks opened very small in comparison with only 561. And then 10 years ago, Briscoe opened with 800. So very comparable in how the schools opened in high growth areas. This slide shows you the detail of each neighborhood in years 1, 5, and 10 for the areas from Folks to Strauss, and then the areas from Briscoe to Strauss. See, the majority of the relief comes from Folks. In our considerations, we always consider neighborhood integrity. We keep neighborhoods intact and don't split neighborhoods in boundary changes when possible. The development plans, we've included the development for all known development at this time in our projection series. And students would not be moved a second time during the course of their middle school tenure with the opening of Strauss Middle School. Boundaries were last changed when the schools opened for Folks in Briscoe in the year that they opened. The feeder percentages before the boundary change, Folks Middle School feeds Harlan and O'Connor. Primarily 95% of Folks goes to Harlan, 5% goes to O'Connor. After Strauss opens, the percentage wouldn't change much. 93% would go to Harlan, 7% would go on to O'Connor. For Briscoe Middle School, currently feeds 3 high schools. 14% go to Brennan, 6% go to Harlan, and 80% go to Taft. And after the Strauss boundary change, 15% would go to Brennan and 85% would go to Taft. It would take all of the pieces of Harlan out of Briscoe. Strauss Middle School, with its proposed boundary, would 100% go to Harlan High School. We looked at travel distances from various parts of the proposed boundary for Strauss. Timber Creek is in the far northwest area of the district in the Bandera County. It improves the travel distance from 19.1 miles to 15.7 to Strauss instead of to Folks. Helotes Canyon is along Highway 16, and it improves that. It doesn't improve that distance. It's 11 miles to Folks and 12.3 miles to Strauss. However, the slight benefit would be that Strauss and Harlan High School are adjacent to one another, and that area also feeds Harlan. Dancing Bear is in Medina County. It improves that travel distance from 15.7 miles to Folks to 12.3 miles to Strauss. And Cobblestone, which is part of the Briscoe boundary, would improve from 4.8 miles to 1.7 miles to Strauss. We did consider an alternative in the Strauss proposal. We looked at including the Remuda Ranch area, which is a neighborhood off of Gom Road. But in the recent Tomlinson Elementary School boundary, the Remuda Ranch neighborhoods are included in the Tomlinson proposal. And given the proximity is about equidistant between Remuda and Folks and Remuda and Strauss, we did not include the Remuda Ranch neighborhood in the Strauss boundary to keep it consistent with the area they would be traveling for elementary and middle school. There is a grandfather option. With the approval of a new boundary, 8th graders may elect to remain at their current school. However, transportation is not provided by the district, and it does not apply to younger siblings. And in consulting with the transportation department, they looked at neighborhoods that may be eligible to walk to Strauss Middle School in the proposed boundary. Waterford Park is a neighborhood that is immediately adjacent to Strauss, and transportation feels like those students may be eligible to walk to Strauss, but given that parts of Waterford Park are still under construction, they would evaluate the routes at the time that the school opens. The remaining students from the other areas within the proposal are currently eligible for transportation to Folks and Briscoe, and they would be eligible to Strauss as well. That's it. Any questions?
November the 10th. So Dr. Harrell, Dr. Woods, trustees, our plan is to take this to the SBAC later this week on the 29th. Have the hearing just like we did recently with Tomlinson at Harlan High School, with all the protocols that we had in place on November the 10th, and then hopefully bring a recommendation to you for final approval in December 15th.
Can you say the last two dates one more time?
The hearing will be on November 10th, 6:30. And what we've done to make sure, because of protocols, we've communicated with the communities via email, US mail, and actually did a school messenger from the sending schools as well, explaining the protocols and to make sure they can send their input if they'd like.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Any discussion? Okay, so this was up for discussion only.
Correct.
Agreed?
Oh, it's only discussion this time until after the hearing. That's right.
Yes.
I'm gonna
Correct.
say, we did review this all in policy.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
it was so much nicer than the last one that we had.
I believe it.
So hopefully it will go smoothly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you
for your
very
hard
much.
work on this. Thank you.
Y'all have a good evening. All right.
We are now, hang on, sorry. We are at Superintendent, COVID-related expenditures and future agenda items. Dr. Woods.
Yes, ma'am. As we do each month, we bring a presentation on COVID expenditures. So the first slide, you will see the first item is what we brought to the, displayed for the board in September. So each month that we have COVID directly related expenditures, we'll add to that, and you can see the running total. You can additional personal protective equipment. So, and that will continue to be a line item that you're going to see as long as we're operating in the era of COVID. Next slide, please. So the other thing that had been discussed at some board meetings in the past was the personnel related costs that are directly tied to COVID. So here you see two of those, one of which has come to a close and the other is ongoing. So the first item is the childcare costs. When we stood up the school year, asked teachers to return to classrooms prior to having students in our building, we did childcare for our staff's children, their personal children. And you can see an estimate, a pretty close estimate of what that cost was. That program actually concluded on October the 17th, as anybody who had indicated a desire to be in building was allowed to do that subsequent to that date. The second item is the after hours tutoring that's occurring, and that is a running cost, as that will continue, we foresee, for some time. But just wanted to give you a sense of that cost as well. Next, we got into, and I want to thank Wes Scott for making me look a lot smarter than I am here. So what Wes has done is look at the CARES Act and the various pots of money under the CARES Act and how they either apply or do not to us. And so what you see on this third slide is the part of the CARES Act that is ESSER, Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund, and FEMA. ESSER, you'll recall, was the portion of the federal dollars that came through the states, but Texas chose to supplant the state budget with that money. And so while this shows that NISD was awarded $17.3 million, you know that our state aid was reduced by an exact amount. And so that is, while you could interpret this as new money, quote unquote, it did not work out that way. But if you ask TEA, they would tell you we got $17.3 million out of ESSER. FEMA had a very small program that only applied to disinfectant. We did not generate any dollars out of that. Next slide, Monica. This is looking at the Coronavirus Relief Fund. It's another portion of the CARES Act. It's a separate portion of the CARES Act, and you can see there's several programs listed here. There is a program offered through the Texas Department of Emergency Management, and this is expenses we incurred up to May the 20th of 2020. And there is some reimbursement, and so you can see Wes has got us listed as reporting about $1.6 million to TDM. We have not received reimbursement. We've just reported those expenditures. Medicaid Relief Fund is an unknown and will have to continue to be looked at. Technology reimbursement is supposedly forthcoming, and Lori and her staff are tracking that. Then there's the local match reimbursement program. This is where cities and counties could contribute to districts' technology purchases, and then the state would reimburse you for a like amount. So in this case, we generated $360,000 from Bexar County and the city of San Antonio combined. TEA then reimburses us an additional $360,000, so $720,000 total is what we generate from that. And then finally, Operation Connectivity was another way the state used CARES money, and this was essentially a 50% cut on items purchased through Operation Connectivity. And so you can see we made a purchase of $7.7 roughly million. We paid half of that cost. The agency paid the other half of that cost. That's for things like student Chromebooks, which, as we discussed in Technology Committee, are starting to come in now. That's that kind of materials. So we won't do these reimbursement slides every month, but we wanted you to have just a sense of what's out there, what's been received, which is not much, but what is potential to be received going forward. So let me stop there and see if there are questions. And Dr. Harrell got one other comment.
No, I don't have any questions on this, but I hate to put you on the spot, but I wondered if there was, and you don't have to do it now, but a follow-up on that federal funding with special ed, going to through families applying a $1,500 application process to TEA approved vendors only.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of updates. The way you stated it is stated pretty well. The state is choosing to use some CARES Act dollars to provide services directly to families who have cognitively seriously challenged children. That is fraught with potential problems, and so the bulk of the ed groups are working on a letter now to the governor and the commissioner that expresses our concerns about that. And that ought to be ready this week. I actually edited some today.
Thank you. And just real major concerns on that about the application process, and especially our families that struggle with poverty and technology and language and all kinds of things will be further hampered in this application process. It was very interesting, and it would not help, in my opinion, it would not help the most needy special ed kids. So just through the process alone.
The other comment I would make is that in at least one other state that I'm aware of, a similar scheme was tried and a court ruled it unconstitutional in that state. And so this has happened other places.
Okay, thank you.
The last comment I want to make, and it's not directly related to this, is as some of you know, Wes Scott has accepted a position as the CFO at one of our neighbors to the north. And Wes has for years now done what he did in this presentation and make me look a lot more smart than I am. And so Wes will be missed. I just wanted to take a moment here at the end of our meeting to thank him for his service to Northside. So thanks, Wes. Thanks for everything you've done.
Is it the one that starts with a B?
Yes.
Wes, now you don't even have to relocate either, right? Doggone it. Bernie,
At the end of this week, next week.
next week, doggone it.
Yep, that's why I wanted to say something. Today is Wes's last Northside meeting. He will now have many other meetings to go to in another district.
I do hear they have shorter meetings, though.
If
We'll
that's,
miss you. We will.
I want to know if they have shorter meetings with. Wes has a spouse who is a Northside employee and a child who is a Northside student, so he will not be a stranger. Okay, let me see. Dr. Harrell, you also have attached future agenda items. We've got meetings that are slightly earlier than they would normally be in the months of November and December for obvious reasons, but nothing extraordinary so far. We do, at least as of now, have both of those boundary proposals set to come to the board, the elementary in November and the middle school in December, but nothing else to add on future agenda.
Right now we are moving to executive session, and it is, I'm looking at there, 9:11.
There you go.
All right, the board will now move into executive session. Yeah, take a little.
Microphone.
It is now 9:11. The board will move into executive session, and we will go which room? Back to the.
Yeah, back.
Okay, let me go. It is now 9:39, and we were back in open session. Is there a motion for item A with the resolution?
Yeah,
Mr. Blunt, you have it, okay?
I'll move that the following resolution be adopted by the board. Resolved that the actions of the superintendent in submitting a request to intervene in Texas Public Utility Commission docket number 51023 are hereby ratified and approved, and that the superintendent and/or his designee is hereby authorized to serve in such preceding positions which the superintendent deems to be in the best interest of this school district, and to prosecute appeals of any and all adverse decisions rendered in this matter.
Okay, is there a second?
Second,
All right, Ms. Reed seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. All right, the ayes approved letter A. Appointments. Mr. Medina, do you have a motion?
Thank you very much, Dr. Harrell. I'd like to make a motion to approve the administrative appointments as discussed in closed session.
Ms. Reed seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, we have 3 new appointments approved. Yay. And Katie, I forgot before we're over, I forgot to say my thanks real quick. I would just wanted to say you were there when I was a parent for my own children and now for my grandkids. You were there for me when I was a teacher and administrator. So thank you for being there for me then. And you've been there for me all along the way ever since I became a trustee. And I can't thank you enough. And I know you'll be there for all of us now as a friend and a continuing mentor. And
even after I'm not on board,
oh, I know.
I will hear from you because I've been too ingrained in this.
Yes, you are. You're the face of Northside when I think about it too. But we love you and you just keep going. All right. Okay. All right. And we're going to adjourn the meeting now at 9:41. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.